in Churachandpur. NSCN IM has waded in. Day before yesterday, we showed you a huge rally which took place in Mizoram. Huge rally. These are the real pictures which we are showing you. Southern Manipur. Real picture. Which is inside Manipur. And in Parliament, there is a success. Mallikarjun Kharge has spoken, Amit Shah has spoken, Smriti Irani has spoken, number of people have spoken on issues. And on top of it, data has been presented that 718 Myanmaris have come, they want them out. Internet has been restored partially in Manipur. Partially. And I'll have my guests, I'll introduce them, but before that I'll take an opening comment from Brijesh. Brijesh, if we look at our ground reports, it just tells of a new normal, you know, as if without the proper intervention of the state, civil society has decided to reorder its life.
Well, yes, I agree with you. They have reordered their life. They have made peace with the way it is happening. You know, as one of the walkthroughs would also show, they have also decided how to defend themselves, whether they're getting arms or not, on how to go creative on this and build RMGs and RPGs all by themselves, which may take a week or so, but they also decided how to arm themselves, how to fight for themselves, and also who will live where. So the ghettoization of both ethnicity is almost complete. You know, people may say something, but the ground reality which has been, you know, captured by our correspondent there presents a very bleak picture. What is happening in Manipur, very rightly said, is also panning out in the sanctum sanctorum of democracy, which is the Lok Sabha and the Raj Sabha. The parliament building is also not free from the echo of the rumblings of Manipur, but unfortunately nothing much is happening on the ground.
But why is this feeling within the government that, you know, Manipur will take its time and, you know, it's still better than the violence which took place in 1993 when Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister? And then why is the support continues for Biren Singh? A lot of newspapers today reported the man stays.
Well, Kartikeya, we have been saying here in our programs that the man will stay. I have been of the firm opinion that the man will stay. See, Kartikeya, there are several truths, several layers of truth in the narrative, you know, both of the opposition as well as the ruling dispensation right now. The fact remains that yes, Manipur erstwhile was a completely neglected lot. There were violence, you know, between the Kuki and the Nagas, and it spanned so many years. There were a lot of bloodshed and all. We can't forget what happened in Kokrajhar. The fact also is that the then Prime Minister visited that place. The then Prime Minister hosted a press conference and all. So when the BJP says that, you know, that a lot more bloodshed has taken place in the state of during the regime of Congress, they're not completely wrong. They're not wrong, but the fact also is that, you know, you will always look at what is happening or unfolding right before your own eyes, and the unfortunate aspect of the entire thing is, Kartikeya, that not much is being done. We heard you know, the interview of the mother of the two women who were paraded naked and gang raped and all. You know, they said that they are yet to receive a call from the Chief Minister. So I think the imagery of Chief Minister, of him being a partisan Chief Minister, is also very profoundly edged on one ethnicity, which is the Kuki community. Why N. Biren Singh will not go is something very, very clear with the way Modi government has functioned right from day one. You know, 13th of May 2014. They will not buckle under pressure. You know, no Chief Minister will be removed just because there is a pressure on them to remove that Chief Minister. I think they may take a decision later on, but right now they don't want to take remove N. Biren Singh, make him a meitei martyr, and, you know, give him another lease of life and then regret it later. So that is the reason why, you know, as I've been saying for a while now, that N. Biren Singh is not going to be removed in any time soon.
You know, and today we will do our analysis. We will talk with our guests on the basis of what we show. Today I have decided, you know, what happens in Parliament will happen in Parliament. We'll come to know about it. But we'll now understand Manipur through the pictures we have generated from the ground zero. So first let us play two ground reports which our correspondent Jitendra has done. Let's play out the first two ground reports.
तकरीबन 40 मिनट पहाड़ों में चलने के बाद इस वक्त हम एक और पोस्ट पर पहुंचे और ये देखें, मैं दिखाना चाहूंगा आपको पोस्ट। इस पोस्ट के ऊपर भी वॉलंटियर्स मौजूद हैं जो कि 24 घंटे यहां पर ठीक हथियारों के साथ ड्यूटी देते हुए दिखाई दे रहे हैं। और तस्वीरें आप देखिए, तमाम तरीके के जो वेपन्स हैं यहाँ पर इन्होंने अपनी सुरक्षा के लिए, अपनी ज़मीन को बचाने के लिए यहाँ पर रखे हुए हैं। आप ये देखिए किस तरीके से सिंगल बैरल यहाँ पर रखी हुई है। इसके अलावा ये देखिए अपनी ज़मीन को बचाने के लिए किस तरीके से 24 घंटे ये सामने नज़र रखते हैं। ठीक सामने आप ये पहाड़ी देख रहे हैं, ये वो पहाड़ी है जहाँ से फायरिंग होती है, और ठीक ये सामने देखिए बंकर यहाँ पर बनाया गया है, तमाम वेपन यहाँ पर, लाइव कार्टेजेस। इसके अलावा ये देखिए यहाँ पर बाकायदा यहाँ पर ये दूरबीन भी रखी गई है, और इसी दूरबीन की मदद से देखा जाता है कि आखिरकार ये फायरिंग हो किधर की तरफ से रही है, और उसके बाद उस फायरिंग का ये लोग जवाबी कार्रवाई उसको रिटेलिएट ये लोग करते हैं। और तस्वीरें आप देख सकते हैं किस तरीके से ये जो बंकर है, दरअसल ये जो स्थानीय लोग हैं उन्होंने अपने बंकर यहाँ पर बनाए हुए हैं, और बंकर के अंदर देखिए किस तरीके से यहाँ पर बाकायदा टॉर्च यहाँ पर आपको दिखाई देगी, यहाँ पर आपको लाइव कार्टेजेस दिखाई देंगे, यहाँ पर सिंगल बैरल जो बंदूकें हैं वो यहाँ पर दिखाई देंगी, और ये देखिए किस तरीके से वेपन्स यहाँ पर इन्होंने लिए हुए हैं। बाय प्रोफेशन आप क्या है?
साउंड इंजीनियर सर। साउंड इंजीनियर।
ओके, तो आप साउंड इंजीनियर हैं, और कब से यहाँ ड्यूटी दे रहे हैं? कब से ड्यूटी दे रहे हैं यहाँ पर?
प्लस
Since how long you here? Since how long you here?
It's around 2 months. From the conflict, they are already here. It's a Renkai village volunteer. They have been here for the past 2 months.
You are a businessman?
Yes, I am an entrepreneur.
Okay.
This is my own product.
What was your business?
I manufacture juice plus I own a bottling company.
Then why are you here?
I am here because I need to protect my land. I need to live my business.
तो आप देखिए अपनी जमीन को बचाने के लिए, क्योंकि अब दरअसल दोनों गुट आमने सामने हैं और एक दूसरे की जमीन को कब्जाने की जो जंग है वो यहाँ पर शुरू हो गई है, और उसके बाद इस जंग को बिना हथियारों के ये लोग नहीं जीत सकते। और ये देखिए यही वजह है कि वॉकी टॉकी इसके अलावा वेपन्स के साथ यहाँ पर ये ठीक ये देखिए ये बंकर है, और इसी बंकर के अंदर 24 घंटे ये लोग यहाँ मौजूद रहते हैं। और ठीक इसी बंकर में यहाँ पर बैठकर ठीक सामने जो आप ये पहाड़ी देख रहे हैं, इसी पहाड़ी की तरफ इनकी 24 घंटे नजर होती है, जहां से कभी भी इनके ऊपर फायरिंग शुरू हो जाती है, और उसके बाद इन्हीं बंदूकों की मदद से ये लोग विरोधी गुट को जवाब दे पाते हैं। तो देखिए चारों तरफ आपको यहाँ पर वेपन्स दिखाई देंगे, ये देखिए आपको यहाँ पर जो लाइव कार्टेजेस हैं वो यहाँ पर दिखाई देंगे रखे हुए, और इन्हीं की मदद से ये लोग अपनी जमीन को बचाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, ऐसा इनका कहना है। पहले बैरियर, फिर बंकर, और अब ये चेक पोस्ट, और अब इसके बाद हम लोग कोशिश करेंगे इन्हीं वॉलंटियर्स के साथ जाएंगे उस फ्रंट लाइन पर जहां पर दोनों गुट आमने सामने होते हैं, और बेहद खतरनाक वो जगह बताई जाती है, और इसी ट्रक के अंदर बैठकर हम लोग कोशिश करेंगे इनके साथ जाएं। ये लोग अपनी सुरक्षा के लिए अपने साथ ये वेपन्स लिए हुए हैं, क्योंकि ठीक सामने जो आप ये रास्ता देख रहे हैं, इस रास्ते पर बताया जाता है बेहद खतरा होता है, कभी भी सामना जो दूसरा विरोधी गुट है वो कभी भी वहां से फायरिंग शुरू कर देता है, तो उसके लिए इनके पास अपने हथियार होने जरूरी हैं। और इन्हीं के साथ अब हम लोग उस फ्रंट लाइन की तरफ पहुंचेंगे और जाकर देखेंगे किस तरीके से ये लोग वहां 24 घंटे, जैसा कि इनका दावा है कि अपनी जमीन को बचाने के लिए ये लड़ाई लड़ रहे हैं, किस तरीके से 24 घंटे उस फ्रंट लाइन पर ये लोग मौजूद होते हैं। अब से कुछ देर बाद हमारे सामने तस्वीरें होंगी।
So I'm joined by Mr. Kipgin, spokesperson Kuki NPI Manipur Group, Professor Prasenjit Biswas, Professor of Philosophy, Northeastern Hill University, Shillong, and Colonel Shanti Kumar Sapam from Assam Regiment. You know, last time you corrected me, so Assam Regiment. Thank you very much, all of you. Today I have decided to have a conversation on primary ground reports. On primary ground reports. Our correspondent is there. I have decided not to take a conversation on the politics of Manipur. It's irrelevant, you know. It's like cacophony. It's like background noise. So two things are visible. First, I'll come to First, I'll come to Professor Prasenjit. Then I'll go to Colonel Saab, and then to my old friend Mr. Kipgin. One, the looted weapon is evident. This is not a weapon which can be purchased. Second, you have a person who makes juice. Second person is a sound engineer who is working on the barricades. Paramilitarization of a society has taken place. This is evident. How do you allow this in a democratic structure where weapons and the function of violence and security can only rest with police, Indian Army or paramilitary forces, not with civil society? Professor.
Yes, I mean, you are very much right. And these are vigilante groups, you know. and one vigilante group justifies its action and preparation on the basis of the vigilante groups on the other side. So it's not one-sided, it's actually a two-sided phenomenon. Now, those who feel that they are more victimized, they organize them in a little more defensive manner. And here I know the internal narratives that both the communities have about each other. The narratives are absolutely frustrating, and they are a very sad development, I would say. The mistrust and the possibility of attack and the logic of revenging, retaliation, organize both the groups into armed segments. And these armed young boys, largely, are trained in a certain way. As far as cookies are concerned, they have this license for hunting. So if they can kill a bird, they can improvise on their own guns in order to defend themselves. So these guns are improvised guns. They are not really guns which have been supplied from elsewhere. Same is the story on the other side, you can see. And the case of gun looting from the police reserve or some other government sources really need to be investigated. It is almost 80, 90 days now, and there is no concrete steps to recover arms. Arms recovery has not been totally successful. It was only partially successful. People have remained armed in order to defend themselves. So unarming them or disarming them at this point of time can happen only if state security forces are able to provide an absolute security cover, an unbreachable security cover. But that is not there in Manipur. Who is going to provide that kind of security cover to cookies and also to meiteis? So therefore, the communities have their internal justification for remaining armed, for remaining prepared. And it's a very sad day for India's democracy if communities have to take up arms to battle each other. And that's a big offense also in relation to India's laws and the rule of law as well. And the question comes, is there rule of law in Manipur? If it was there, then such a thing would not have happened. So rule of order is very much there, but no rule of law. It is rule by law and not really rule of law that is there in Manipur. You can see the condition of the government of Manipur, the Manipur Assembly. Both these institutions are not able to contain these kind of developments, which is highly unfortunate. While they have all the wherewithal and the capacity to contain such developments, de-parochialize, de-radicalize, disarm people, and bring them together into some kind of an understanding that is completely eluded at this point of time. So therefore, these pictures are very much chilling, and they shatter your faith in democracy and the nation. So we need to take up some urgent steps. Not just, putting boot against boot, but it is also a human touch, a healing touch that is much needed, by virtue of which these people can go back and they won't be so much armed literally to fight against each other. Yeah, Kartikeya ji. Sure.
Okay. Colonel Saab, please unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Achha. One thing which I would like to express from my side is what is happening now since 3rd May is very unfortunate, and I would request the authorities to kindly arrange a table for talk, basically. Every day, every single day, any event happening, it increases the hatred between the two communities. And we are all human beings. Cookies are also good people, meiteis are also good people. And today, I when we talk, certain comments are passed basically by the other group. I just want to clarify one thing. Today is one of my auntie's shroud, which happens after 13th day after one person expired. So I'm in that attire today, with the chandan and all. This is the culture as far as the Meitei Hindus are concerned. So it just
today is another very important day, Sapam Saab. Today is also very important day.
Yeah. So
today 25 years ago, our men died fighting Pakistanis on icy peaks. They got back our land.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Today is also a day to remember them. Indian Army
Yes,
is led
yes,
by
yes.
young officers, young
Yes,
men
yes,
and boys. We are
absolutely,
short of
absolutely.
army officers. We are short of them by thousands.
Absolutely.
You know, today
Absolutely.
is the day when when we should remember more that someone said ye dil mange more, and he died.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And he died.
Absolutely. Yes.
We should
On this
remember
aspect,
we
yes,
should remember
must
this
remember
day.
this. And my
It's Kargil.
request, yes, absolutely. And my request to both the groups, both the let's say meiteis and kukis, is that when you attack, a lot of people die from the attacker side. So please don't attack as of now. You defend your what you call villages is fine, but the moment you attack, casualties are more. And when the casualties are more, then hatred increases. Please, for God's sake, please stay in your. If you do not, since we have not developed the faith between the groups, please stay in your villages, and if you want to defend, but don't go for. Please do not go for attack. That is what I wanted to give advice to both the groups. Now, coming to the main thing, that a person at the center, it has gone out of the state. I think, because if you arrange something of this line at the state level, I think it is not going to work. So my sincere request to the central government is that a table should be arranged for the groups of Manipur to speak out what is there in their mind, and then it should be a person who is a very responsible, a strong person should conduct the table. That is the thing which I feel that it is immediately required before we go to the next day. This is what I wanted to convey, because we are all brothers. We have been living in harmony over here in Manipur. Manipur was happening this year. I was very proud. Tri-nation football, in which foreign countries were involved, it was conducted in Manipur. After 68 years of Miss Femina being always conducted in Mumbai, it came to a small state like Manipur. Very small state like Manipur. It came. It's a privilege for us. And now with the events happening in Manipur, I don't know what the world must be understanding Manipur as of now. It's a very shameful thing for all of us. And one incident and two incidents, no. A lot of incidents are taking place. What we see in the camera, some are hidden, some are not hidden. So it's a very painful thing. Both the communities must come down. They should be brought to the table by the center, because center is our father. The father must console the children, must come and advise the children and give directives. And if anybody, any party, any individual is at fault, they should be given punishment. They should be given
But Colonel Saab,
punishment.
there is one question which I want to ask you. How do you get back these guns? There is a tangibility of things. You have guns, so you have violence. How do you get back the guns? It's like America. It's like American society. More people die of gun violence in the United States of America than terror attacks. Why? Because guns are available to civilians. So how do you get back guns? And tell me, I mean to say, if Indian Army is not allowed to do that sort of an operation of taking back guns, I don't think any agency can do that.
When the table is arranged, the population of Manipur is just 30 lakhs. It's nothing. Like, it's very simple basically. And the guns, if guns are looted, it is for some, frustration and, both sides. They have looted the guns from the police station. It's due to frustration basically. No, hum bhi karne ge. Ye baat nahi hai. It's not something like, nahi, they want to keep the gun for, on permanent basis. No. When the decision is given on the negotiation table, the guns will return. They don't want to keep the guns. Let me tell you, except the licensed guns, they will not keep the guns. This is what I believe, very strongly believe, because see, since I am serving now in Manipur, I know many people. So there's no gun culture over here. And the compulsion, they were compelled to take up arms. table is the most important thing as of now. This is what I wanted to request the center, and the center must arrange the table with one authority, and if possible, it should be open to media also, so that the whole nation comes to know. And if a person is wrong, then he will go out. He will back out. Yes.
Okay, so basically,
penalize who's wrong,
you are
who's right,
saying
no problem.
that a table has to be, basically your argument is that there has to be a political dialogue. Mr. Kipgen,
Yes.
what do you make of the ground report?
Before coming to ground report, I wanted to share a few of my thoughts. Like, as Colonel Sapam had also said, that Manipur prior to 3rd of May, it was developing and it was shining and it was, being visible. Its visibility was gaining momentum across the country and in other parts of the world as well. But this is also a misrepresentation of the state of Manipur. Why? When you talk about Femina Miss India that happened in Manipur, it took place in Valley, Manipur. You talk about the Tri-Nation football tournament, it happened in Valley, Manipur. You talk about facilities such as National Sports University, it's in the periphery, more or less in the Imphal Valley. So Manipur Valley was developing, Manipur Valley was shining, whereas the rest of the outside the valley, things were the same as it was 40 years ago, 30 years ago. So that was the context where the hills and the valley, there was always a divide, even in terms of development, in terms of funding and everything. So that is the historical perspective of the Manipur divide. That is why,
But Mr. Kipgen,
when
if
you
there is
talk
no
about
culture of the gun, how has the gun become a symbol of present crisis? I'm just asking you, like, for example, if gun wasn't the culture, like in a pre-colonial freedom struggle, it was non-violence which was symbol of our struggle against a colonizer. So if you're saying, and I'm no one to argue against it, if you're saying that gun is not part of the culture, then how does it embed itself so easily in last 90 days?
Guns, for example, even those with the licensed arms, why do they have licensed arms? Some they need for crop protection, some they need it for as a traditional way of life. We hunt wild animals, so there is always a necessity for having arms. But this time the scene is such that it is more than that, and like Professor had mentioned a while ago, it became necessary to protect oneself, to protect one's life. That is why there are modifications on the licensed arms as well, where modifications in terms of its usage, which were being used to target birds and animals, for protection, is now being aimed at fellow humans, which is very unfortunate. But that is the turn that the situation has taken, and to top it off, the looting of arms from the police, from the reserves, that is what we have seen. And so when we talk about disarming or getting back these looted arms, or we talk about, as Colonel has mentioned, bringing a table for discussion, these things are bound to happen, and it should happen. But prior to all this, people should have a sense of security in the way that they should feel that violence has gone down. They should feel that arson has gone down. They should feel that in the daily news, they should stop hearing about this violence. So I think when we have about 10-15 days of complete calming down of the violence, then people will be more free, even psychologically, they will be more free to think and look into other avenues. Okay, so now that there is some sense of security in the state, some sense of peace, why don't we go for dialogue? Why don't we go for a table to discuss our issues? But these things cannot be hurriedly put forward, in the sense that till the sense of violence, until it goes down, it is not sensible to even think about bringing a table. Where do we place this table? Are we going to place this table in Delhi? The table should be here in Manipur. So the way I see, the way to peace, firstly, is that the political willpower should be there to come to clamp down the violence immediately.
Okay.
And thereafter we can think about other options.
Okay, wonderful. Now, since I've taken the opening reaction, let me play out 3 more ground reports. Now, one ground report will be focused on what has happened to the physical infrastructure. The second ground report will focus on the violence and where firing is happening, because a lot of people say that these are the areas where firing happened. And then we are going to show visuals of the area which we popularly say buffer zone. You know, this is like a line which they have drawn, and then couple of vox pops of people who are there. And this is half the ground report. Please play all of it.
हम इस वक्त चुरा चांदपुर के पहाड़ी इलाके के अंदर मौजूद हैं और ये जो इलाका है, दरअसल इस इलाके को कुकी का इलाका कहा जाता है, यानी कि कुकी समुदाय के लोग यहाँ पर रहते हैं। और इस वक्त ये जो रास्ता आप देख रहे हैं, जो जंगल का रास्ता है, जो पहाड़ों का इलाके का रास्ता है, ये दरअसल जो कुकीज की अपनी फ्रंट लाइन है, उस फ्रंट लाइन की तरफ ये जाता है रास्ता। और अब से कुछ देर बाद हम आपको फ्रंट लाइन दिखाएंगे, जहां पर जो कुकी समुदाय के लोग हैं वो रात दिन पहरा करते हैं, ताकि जो विरोधी गुट है या फिर सीधे तौर पर कहेंगे जो मैतेई हैं, वो इनके इलाके में, इस समुदाय के इलाके में ना घुस पाएं। तो यानी कि वो फ्रंट लाइन जहां पर दोनों गुट आमने सामने होते हैं, अब से कुछ देर बाद वो फ्रंट लाइन हमारे सामने मौजूद होगी। और ये देखिए किस तरीके से पूरा कच्चा रास्ता है, और इसी रास्ते से, इसी पहाड़ी कच्चे रास्ते से होते हुए हम उस फ्रंट लाइन पर पहुंचेंगे जहां पर आमने सामने दोनों गुट होते हैं। और उसी फ्रंट लाइन पर ज्यादातर आमने सामने दोनों तरफ से गोलियां चलती हैं, गोलियां घंटों चलती हैं, कई बार रात भर गोलियां चलती रहती हैं। और बेहद जो कहें तो एक तरीके से बफर इलाका है वो, यानी कि बफर जोन है, जो सबसे खतरनाक इलाका इस पूरे हिंसा का जो क्षेत्र है उसमें माना जाता है। और ये देखिए किस तरीके से ये वो कच्चा रास्ता है जो कि उस फ्रंट लाइन की तरफ जाता है। ये मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन तस्वीरें आपको अमित बालियान लगातार दिखाते रहें। ये देखिए किस तरीके से यहाँ पर जगह जगह आपको बंकर दिखाई देंगे। ये नहर का रास्ता है, जैसे ही आप ये नहर क्रॉस करेंगे उसके बाद की तस्वीर आप देखिए किस तरीके से हर जगह यहाँ पर लोगों ने अपने छोटे छोटे बंकर यहाँ पर बनाए हुए हैं। और ये पूरा जंगल का रास्ता है, और इसी रास्ते से होते हुए हम सीधा उस फ्रंट लाइन तक पहुंचेंगे जहां पर दोनों समुदाय, दोनों गुट आमने सामने होते हैं। इस वक्त अब हम फ्रंट लाइन पर पहुंच चुके हैं और तस्वीरें आप देख सकते हैं, ये वो फ्रंट लाइन है जहां पर ये देखिए किस तरीके से जो कुकी समुदाय है वो यहां पर 24 घंटे ठीक हथियारों के साथ इसी तरीके से पहरा देता है। और ठीक सामने जो आप ये पहाड़ी देख रहे हैं, दरअसल ये वो पहाड़ी है जहां से बताया जाता है कि कभी भी फायरिंग शुरू कर दी जाती है, और इसी रास्ते से लगातार घुसपैठ करने की कोशिश भी विरोधी गुट की तरफ से की जाती है। और ये जो लोग आप देख रहे हैं इस वक्त, ये अपनी जमीन की रक्षा करने के लिए, खुद की रक्षा करने के लिए यहाँ पर हथियारों के साथ इस रास्ते पर ठीक इसी तरीके से 24 घंटे मौजूद होते हैं। ठीक सामने तस्वीरों में आप देख सकते हैं वहाँ पर बाकायदा बंकर बनाया गया है, और उसी बंकर की मदद से ये लोग वहाँ पर जो फायरिंग होती है ठीक सामने से पहाड़ों के ऊपर से, उस फायरिंग का जवाब देते हैं। और ये देखिए यहाँ पर कुछ घर भी आपको जले हुए दिखाई देंगे। ये दरअसल जिस वक्त हिंसा हुई थी उस दौरान ये घर यहाँ पर जलाए गए थे, और उसके बाद से लगातार इस रास्ते पर यहाँ पर फ्रंट लाइन तैयार की गई है। देखिए हथियारों के साथ वहाँ पर बाकायदा एक शख्स आपको दिखाई देगा जो कि बंकर के ठीक नज़दीक खड़ा हुआ है। और ये वो रास्ता है, ये वो जगह है जहाँ जिसको फ्रंट लाइन कहा जाता है। TV9 भारतवर्ष आपको सबसे पहले ये फ्रंट लाइन इस वक्त यहाँ पर दिखा रहा है, और ये वो फ्रंट लाइन है जो कि सबसे ज़्यादा बफर जोन यानी कि सबसे ज्यादा खतरनाक इलाका बताया जाता है। और ये देखिए किस तरीके से लगातार यहाँ पर दूरबीन के जरिए यहाँ पर नजर रखी जाती है। ठीक सामने ये देखिए बाकायदा बुलेट प्रूफ जैकेट के अंदर ये लोग मौजूद हैं, और ये देखिए किस तरीके से ये लोग इस दूरबीन की मदद से कोशिश करते हैं कि ठीक सामने नजर रखें, वहां पर बंकर पर नजर रखें विरोधी गुट के, और अगर वहां से कोई हलचल होती तो उसके बाद ये लोग जवाबी कार्रवाई के लिए तैयार रहते हैं। और ये देखिए किस तरीके से ये जो घर आप देख रहे हैं, दरअसल ये घर डेविड का है, वो डेविड जिसकी बेहद बर्बरता से गर्दन जो है वो धड़ से अलग कर दी गई थी। और उसके बाद इसी गांव के अंदर जो विरोधी गुट है वो उस धड़ को लेकर, उस सर को लेकर यहाँ पर घूमता रहा, ताकि दहशत पैदा की जा सके अपने विरोधी गुट के अंदर यानी कि कुकीज के अंदर। और उसके बाद ठीक ये वो जगह है जहां पर उसकी लाश को जलाया गया था, और यहां पर बाकायदा फ्लैग भी लगाया गया। और ये देखिए जो तमाम लोग हैं वो आपको यहां पर वेपन्स के साथ 24 घंटे ठीक इसी तरीके से, चाहे बारिश हो या फिर कड़ी धूप हो, अंधेरा हो, 24 घंटे इसी तरीके से हथियारों के साथ आपको यहां पर तैनात दिखाई देंगे। ये वो फ्रंट लाइन है जिसका जिक्र हम कर रहे थे, और फ्रंट लाइन तक पहुंचने के लिए हमें तकरीबन 1 से 1.5 घंटा लगा पहाड़ों में। और ये देखिए किस तरीके से लगातार ये लोग यहाँ पर हथियारों के दम पर, इनका दावा है कि अपनी जमीन की रक्षा करते हैं, इस फ्रंट लाइन पर 24 घंटे यहाँ पर इन्हीं हथियारों के साथ तैनात रहते हैं। फ्रंट लाइन की तरफ बढ़ते हुए पहाड़ों के ठीक बीचों बीच इसी रास्ते पर हमें एक पोस्ट दिखाई दी और ये देखिए पोस्ट पर यहाँ पर तमाम जो वॉलंटियर्स हैं वो यहाँ पर मौजूद हैं, 24 घंटे यहाँ पर ड्यूटी दे रहे हैं ताकि जो विरोधी गुट है वो अंदर एंटर ना कर पाए। जानने की कोशिश करते कि आखिरकार इस पोस्ट की जरूरत क्यों पड़ी। नाम क्या है?
मेरा नाम सैमुअल है।
मैं कहाँ के रहने वाले हैं आप? इसी इलाके के रहने वाले?
मैं इसी इलाके का रहने वाला तो नहीं हूँ, फिर भी दूसरे गांव से आया हूँ मैं।
अच्छा, किस लिए आप लोग यहाँ?
सिर्फ और सिर्फ अपने ज़मीन को प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए आए हैं हम लोग, ना ही हमें उनका ज़मीन चाहिए। सिर्फ और सिर्फ हमारा जो भी गांव जलाया गया है वो हम लोग वापस लेना चाहते हैं, और जितना भी गांव हम इन्होंने जलाया बस हमें वो वापस कर दीजिएगा, और जितना भी इम्फाल वैली में आप लोगों ने जलाया वो आप रख लीजिएगा। हम अपने गांव से सहमत है, उनको अपना इम्फाल वैली चाहिए, उनको रहने दीजिएगा आप।
अच्छा, आप बाय प्रोफेशन क्या है, आप क्या करते हैं?
बाय प्रोफेशन तो मैं एडवोकेट हूँ, फिर भी हमारे लोगों को वॉलंटियर्स चाहिए था, इसलिए हमने पार्टिसिपेट किया इस चीज़ के लिए।
तो यहाँ पर भी फायरिंग वगैरह होती है?
यहाँ पे भी फायरिंग हुआ था पिछली बार, अगर आपको लोगों को पता होगा तो डेविड की हत्या जो बहुत ही बेरहमी से मारा गया था, उससे उसका गला काटा गया था। उस दिन के बाद से यहाँ पे फायरिंग हुआ था, फिर अभी 1 सप्ताह हो गया, अभी फायरिंग नहीं हुई इस जगह पे।
आप लोग 24 घंटे इस पोस्ट पर रहते हैं?
ऐसा है कि हमारा रोटेशन सिस्टम चलता है, मान के चलिए 5-5 घंटा 2-2 ग्रुप वहाँ पे बैठते हैं, उसके बाद फिर हमारे अपने आप चेंज होते रहते हैं। कुछ लोग इन्हें अलग-अलग भाषा में कहते हैं।
बताइए क्या लगता है आपको, कब तक ये नॉर्मल हो पाएगा?
देखिए, अभी तो सरकार के ऊपर है, सेंटर अभी बात कर रहे हैं अभी हमारे लोग से भी, फिर भी हम ये चाहते थे कि अगर हमारे देश के प्रधानमंत्री जी मोदी जी कुछ बोले, अभी तक उन्होंने कुछ बोला नहीं, ये कहा गया है, ये हमें बहुत दुख लगता है। फिर भी अगर सेंटर अगर कुछ कर सकती है तो जल्द से जल्द करना चाहिए। सबसे बड़ी डिमांड तो हमारी थी कि राष्ट्रपति शासन लाना चाहिए था यहाँ पे, बट यहाँ के मुख्यमंत्री ने रिजाइन करने से मना किया है। ये चीज़ को लेके सेंटर से हमें बहुत दुख है ये बात को लेके।
अच्छा, ये बताइए इस पोस्ट की जरूरत क्यों पड़ी? क्या यहाँ पर लोगों को चेक करते हैं आप लोग, कैसे क्या काम करते हैं?
देखिए, मेनली क्या होता है कि हर जगह लोग आना चाहते हैं इस तरफ भी। हम लोग सिर्फ अपने मीडिया लोगों को और अपने वॉलंटियर्स लोगों को और आर्मी और असम राइफल को हम यहाँ पे जाने देते हैं, और वैसे सिविलियन लोग अलाउड नहीं है, पर कोई कुछ काम होगा तो हम लोग अलाउ कर देते हैं।
आप लोग एंट्री वगैरह भी करते हैं रजिस्टर के अंदर?
हाँ, अगर जो भी मान के चलिए यहाँ के गाँव के रहने वाले लोग हैं उनको आना है तो वो आ सकते हैं, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है उसके ऊपर।
तो बिल्कुल ये देखिए, ये ठीक पहाड़ों के बीचों बीच आप ये पोस्ट बनी देखेंगे, और इस पोस्ट पर वॉलंटियर्स जो है वो 24 घंटे यहाँ पर तैनात रहते हैं। बाकायदा इस पोस्ट से गुजरने वालों की सबके नाम नंबर यहाँ पर रजिस्टर के अंदर लिखे भी जाते हैं। और दरअसल यहीं से कुछ दूरी पर जब आप आगे जाएंगे तो एक डेविड नाम के शख्स की बड़ी बेरहमी से हत्या की गई थी, उसकी गर्दन को धड़ से अलग कर दिया गया था, और उसके बाद उसी गाँव के अंदर उसके धड़ को घुमाया गया हाथ में लेकर, और फिर ठीक उसके घर के सामने उसे दीवार के ऊपर टांग दिया गया था। तो दरअसल ये जो विरोधी गुट था वो इस गुट के अंदर अपनी एक दहशत कायम करना चाहता था, और उसी को लेकर इस हत्या को बेहद बर्बरता से अंजाम दिया गया। और अब ये देखिए किस तरीके से जो तमाम इस वक्त यहाँ पर वॉलंटियर्स हैं वो यहाँ पर मौजूद हैं, 24 घंटे वॉकी टॉकी के साथ ये लोग यहाँ पर मौजूद रहते हैं। तो आप तस्वीरें देख सकते हैं किस तरीके से जो वॉलंटियर्स हैं वो ठीक इस पोस्ट के ऊपर मौजूद हैं, और इसी तरीके से 24 घंटे अपनी ड्यूटी को यहाँ पर अंजाम देते हुए देखे जा सकते हैं।
Brijesh, if I just have to go by the word, he says we allow only media, Assam Rifles, and army to pass through. And what do I have to make of it? Is it coexistence, or is it militia allowing them the right of passage?
See, more than coexistence, it shows that they have faith only in Indian Army and Assam Rifles, and that is the reason why they allow, and also in media, because they get their story to the wider world. So it shows their faith in Indian Army and Assam Rifles, and they say that they allow passage only to them and media, and also people who want to live nearby or live in the village. But he also made very interesting observation, that when he asked if you allow villagers from the nearby villages and all, so he said the situation is not that you see too many villages moving around as we speak. So this also speaks about the fear, the horror of the entire thing which has been happening for the since May 3rd till now, which is unfolding there. And our reporter has done a very detailed survey.
Fabulous job.
Fabulous job. Yeah, absolutely fabulous job of a detailed understanding, detailed walkthrough of everything that is happening there. And I think this speaks volumes about the way ghettoization has taken place, the way the trust factor is also deeply divided. If you are a Kuki, you trust Indian Army, you trust Assam Rifle. If you are a Meitei, you trust Indian Army, but you do not trust Assam Rifle at all. This dichotomy is also a very perplexing and very surprising dichotomy, which is evident there in for the last 50 plus days, ever since we have been covering this violence in Manipur is concerned.
Colonel Saab, I'll come to you first. We only allow Assam Rifle, Indian Army and media to pass by. What do I have to make of it? Is it coexistence? If Indian Army is passing by, why aren't these people getting disarmed?
I'll just give my experience. I was posted in Assam Rifles, as I said, on deputation. And the same situation is happening over here. Assam Rifles are basically not deployed in the plain areas. They are deployed in the hills, basically. And next to a village, always, in most of the cases, the companies I'm talking about, or let's say the platoons, they are deployed next to the village. And if it is a battalion headquarters, then little away from the villages. Now, Assam Rifles over the time, they have close connections with the village, they know each other. And when this kind of, clash takes place, that time the role of the Assam Rifle is to protect that village. It will not that Assam Rifle company or let's say platoon will not allow any other chaps, any other party, except from the village, to attack that village. That is one thing. So my recommendation, which I have been telling from before, is that Assam Rifles, if it is Assam Rifle, then it should be deployed in both the villages. Let's say Meitei village and the adjacent village Kuki. So two companies or let's say two platoons should be deployed so that their communication, understanding, everything is fine. This side also, if there is one, for example, let's say there is one Assam Rifle platoon or company in Meitei village, his duty, the duty of the company commander is to protect that Meitei village. And the same goes for the other one. If a company or let's say a platoon of Assam Rifle is there in the Kuki village, his duty is to protect that village. So this is the, now in the, when we see the scenario now, this side, Meitei side, there is no Assam Rifles. Some police commandos and then RAF, Rapid Action Force, they are not so good for this kind of, situations basically. They are good for mob and all this thing, but not this kind of, fighting with sophisticated weapons and all.
Okay.
So they are little, reluctant to go. Let and leave ki baat nahi hai. It is a matter of duty. And for the army to come, in action, there are many rules basically. The army just cannot come like that, which is out of the purview of this discussion.
Yeah, okay, I can understand that it's out of the purview of this discussion. I understand that. I also understand that army needs to be empowered in different ways through laws. I also understand that. But this is something when he says we allow Assam Rifle and Indian Army and media to pass through Mr. Kipgen, it also says that there's a parallel existence of force. To put it simplistically, this is something like a Hollywood movie shot in Africa. Mr. Kipgen.
See, the same way that in the valley, they did not like the presence of the Assam Rifles, they have certain sense of animosity towards them. But they only trust the Manipur Police Commandos and the Manipur Rifles and the IRBs. No, that is the picture in the valley, Meitei dominated areas. So in the same way, in the hills, where we have animosity towards the Manipur police, towards the Manipur Police Commandos, the IRB. So it's in both sides, and the reason that is there, I don't know. I think Colonel is right to say that the duties that they have been assigned, they have their own jurisdiction. The Assam Rifles are within their jurisdiction. And the Manipur police, they should be they should have access to all parts of Manipur. But it is not happening because things have taken a communal line. And so a Meitei police officer, be it of whatever rank, he is not seen as a Manipur police. He is seen as somebody who comes to attack them. That is the grim picture that is prevalent now in Manipur. So it is only natural that in a Kuki-dominated area, only these kind of personals and the media are allowed. The same picture is there in the valley also. That they will not allow the Assam rifles. In fact, we have seen many evidences, many videos where the Mera Paibis would gherav the Assam rifles and chase them out, not letting them do their duties. So it's on both sides, and if you say that the picture what you've seen in Lamka, Churchandpur seems to give you certain ideas, that kind of same idea should be there in the valley as well. So it balances out, and it doesn't mean that one particular group is taking a side, but it is the jurisdiction that Assam Rifles has, and they are operating within their jurisdiction.
Okay, Professor, your
Yes,
thoughts?
yes.
We allow Assam Rifle, Army,
yeah.
and media to pass by.
Actually, this entire setting is a setting for violence without any natural justice. And this is a setting for greater violence, But the source of the greater violence needs to be identified. Where lies the source of the greater violence? Is it lying on the Kuki side, or it is lying on the Meitei side? Or is it the case that both sides are in a parity of forces, that both sides don't commit any violence on each other? Now, the second option is something that is more preferable, and that should emerge. But I'm not sure, because it's a kind of a guerrilla-style warfare. And in the guerrilla-style warfare, the attack happens from the rear side and not really from the front side. So therefore, there is complications in this kind of preparations as well. These preparations are no guarantee for self-defense. I must point this out to both the sides who are prepared in this way. But the habitats that are destroyed, those habitats should be repaired, and people should be reinstituted with enough amount of solace, consolation, reparation, and also all kinds of help. If the helping hands were coming forward, these hands would have taken back those guns. And that is not happening because helping hand is not coming forward. And then my fellow panelists have pointed out that forces have got polarized. They have got polarized. Now, this ethnic polarization is a new form of racism. And this racism is working through the state machinery. That is most unfortunate. As far as democratic sensibility is concerned, as far as right to peace is concerned, as far as right to life is concerned, as far as right to self-defense is concerned, all these rights are supposed to be protected by law, by the state. Problem is that state is not able to protect these rights. So you are in an aporia, you are in a vague situation where the state is not present. It's an absent present state machinery. Neither care nor security. On both fronts, state is failing. As you have pointed out, the victimized women of sexual violence are not even met by the state authorities. Reparation is so far away. So therefore, you can see the yawning holes and gaps in bringing peace in Manipur. So I think there is a lack of enthusiasm and interest in bringing peace. And that points to the vested interest, why peace is not brought back in Manipur. And that points to a larger hand which is working behind in creating this sense of insecurity. So I am really appalled by this whole scenario. It's atrocious. It offends your democratic sensibility. It militates your very respect for Indian democracy.
This is really, Professor. It's a very powerful point you make. If you look at the histories of states in Africa, or if you look at the history of states in many of the countries like Afghanistan, or many of the countries like even look at Myanmar. If you look at Ethiopia, the fragmentation of these the fragmentation of the authority does not start at the border. The fragmentation of the authority happens right at the urban centers, where state concedes the right, the right for militia to organize and conduct sense of ordinariness. It's not about taxes, it's not about judicial power. It is actually not about about the movement. It is about that they have the capacity to organize ordinary life, and this is what has happened in Manipur. It's extremely disturbing.
Absolutely, and this actually leads in case of Africa. I'm just returning from Africa, so I have seen cannibalism, widespread cannibalism in Africa, because state has sort of delegitimized itself and handed over its powers to vigilante groups, armed militia, ethnic armed militia, warlords, combined with the power of the money and the pelf and the authority on mines and other resources. Are we tending towards that kind of a situation in the context of Northeast India and in the context of Manipur? The hill versus valley asymmetry, that is one critical historical point here. Our communities are not governed by warlords. They are self-governing communities. These self-governing communities have no reason, no rationality to take up arms. So we should not be losing these threads of self-governance that is there among the Kukis, among the Nagas, even among the Meitei society. You can see these are self-organizing, self-governing societies, and women are in the forefront. But the racist violence and the sexist violence combined on women, targeting women of both the societies, is something unprecedented. This has happened for the first time in the entire history of conflict of Northeast India. And this is based on some kind of a disinformation campaign of one group's women attacked by another group's men, which is a typical strategy of the riot mongering or riot mongerers. Now this has happened, and this has created temporarily, I would say, this kind of a polarization that people have taken to arms. Now, how soon we can break this deadlock? That is the question. And how soon we return to a democratic situation? That is the other question. And that has to be initiated by all of us, including the state and the central government, taking the lead into it. That is most important at this point of time.
Before I take forward this discussion on the fragmentation of the authority of the state, let me play out three very important walkthroughs which have been done. You know, we have a 1 hour of report. I'm breaking it down into number of parts. Let us play out those 4 important walkthroughs which have been done from ground zero Manipur. Let's play them out with vox pops and bites.
इस वक्त हम चुरा चांदपुर इलाके के पहाड़ों के अंदर मौजूद है और ये देखिए पहाड़ी रास्ते, और ये इस वक्त हम घाटी की तरफ जा रहे हैं, यानी कि पहले हम टॉप पर गए और अब हम घाटी की तरफ जा रहे हैं। मकसद है हमारा उस फ्रंट लाइन तक पहुंचना जिसका जिक्र खुद HFC के वाइस प्रेसिडेंट ने सिमोन ने हमारे सामने किया कि इसी घाटी के अंदर एक फ्रंट लाइन बनाई गई है और उस फ्रंट लाइन का मकसद है कि सामने से अगर विरोधी गुट अंदर एंटर करने की कोशिश करता है, यानी कि अगर इनके इलाके के अंदर घुसने की कोशिश करता है तो उस घुसपैठ को रोका जा सके। और अब हम उस फ्रंट लाइन के बेहद नज़दीक हैं और आप ठीक सामने देख सकते हैं रास्ते में छोटे छोटे गांव यहाँ पर पड़ रहे हैं इस पहाड़ी इलाके के अंदर। और ये जितने भी गांव आप देख रहे हैं मोस्टली जो यहाँ लोग रह रहे थे वो सभी ज़्यादातर लोग अपने घरों को खाली करके यहाँ से जो रिलीफ कैंप बनाए गए हैं उन रिलीफ कैंप की तरफ जा चुके हैं और अब ये पूरा रास्ता सुनसान है। और ये देखिए किस तरीके से जंगलों के बीच से होते हुए हमारी गाड़ी इस वक्त उस फ्रंट लाइन की तरफ बढ़ रही है जो अब से कुछ देर बाद हमारे सामने होगी। और उस फ्रंट लाइन पर मकसद है जो तैनात किए गए हैं लोग, जो स्थानीय लोग हैं वो हथियारों के साथ वहाँ पर तैनात हैं और उनका मकसद यही है कि किसी भी तरीके से विरोधी गुट को अपने इलाके के अंदर आने से रोका जा सके। और आप देख सकते हैं किस तरीके से घना जंगल है और इस जंगल के बीच से होते हुए अब हम जल्द उस फ्रंट लाइन तक भी पहुँचने वाले हैं। हम इस वक्त फ्रंट लाइन की तरफ बढ़ रहे हैं, वो फ्रंट लाइन जो कि बेहद खतरनाक बताई जाती है। अक्सर उसी फ्रंट लाइन पर जो फायरिंग होती है जो आए दिनों हमें सुनने में आती है वो उसी फ्रंट लाइन के ऊपर अंजाम दी जाती है। और ये देखिए बेहद खतरनाक इलाका है और ठीक सामने पहाड़ी आप देख रहे हैं चारों तरफ और कभी भी कहीं से भी यहाँ पर गोली चल सकती है। और यही वजह है कि मैंने इस वक्त यहाँ पर एक ब्लड प्रूफ जैकेट पहनी हुई है। और ये देखिए साथ में ये वॉलंटियर्स हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं जो हमें उस फ्रंट लाइन पर लेकर जा रहे हैं। सभी हथियारबंद हैं और उस फ्रंट लाइन पर जाकर हम देखेंगे कि आखिरकार वहां पर हालात किस तरीके के हैं। TV9 भारतवर्ष सबसे पहले उस फ्रंट लाइन पर आपको लेकर जाएगा, आपको वहां की तस्वीरें दिखाएगा कि आखिरकार किस तरीके से दोनों गुट आमने सामने होते हैं और एक दूसरे के ऊपर वहां पर लगातार फायरिंग की जाती है। और जो जमीन पर कब्जे की बात अब यहां पर शुरू हो चुकी है, दरअसल वो फ्रंट लाइन है जो कि एक दूसरे को रोकती है एक दूसरे के इलाके में घुसपैठ करने से। और ये देखिए किस तरीके से इस वक्त हम एक ओपन जीप के अंदर मौजूद हैं और चारों तरफ मैं आपको तस्वीरें दिखाना चाहूंगा। ठीक सामने घना जंगल है, यहाँ कुछ नहीं पता कि कौन कहां से छिपकर यहाँ घात लगाए बैठा है और कब यहाँ से विरोधी गुट जो है इनकी गाड़ी के ऊपर फायरिंग करे। और यही वजह है कि इस वक्त हमने अपनी सुरक्षा के लिए बाकायदा यहाँ पर जो बुलेट प्रूफ जैकेट होती है वो यहाँ पर पहनी। और ठीक सामने तस्वीरें मैं चाहूँगा मेरा कैमरामैन अमित बालियान आपको दिखाता रहे। ये देखिए किस तरीके से बेहद खतरनाक ये इलाका बताया जाता है और उसी इलाके के अंदर इस वक्त हम अंदर प्रवेश कर चुके हैं। और उससे कुछ देर बाद हमारे सामने वो फ्रंट लाइन होगी जो कि अब तक किसी अदर चैनल या फिर किसी न्यूज़ चैनल पर आपने नहीं देखी है। और तस्वीरें आप देखिए किस तरीके से इस वक्त ये तमाम वॉलंटियर्स हैं जो कि अलग अलग पेशे से हैं, लेकिन अपनी जैसा कि इनका दावा है कि अपनी ज़मीन को बचाने के लिए इन्होंने अपने हाथों में हथियार उठाए हैं और इस वक्त ये लोग हमारे साथ उसी फ्रंट लाइन की तरफ बढ़ रहे हैं। हमने आपको बंकर की तस्वीरें दिखाई, आपको चेक पोस्ट दिखाया, आपको अब हम ओपन ट्रक के अंदर आपको दिखाएंगे कुछ देर बाद वो फ्रंट लाइन जहां पर दोनों गुट आमने सामने होते हैं। और आमने सामने होने के बाद उसी फ्रंट लाइन पर ज़्यादातर फायरिंग की जाती है, घंटों फायरिंग चलती है। और ये जो इलाका है ये सबसे खतरनाक इलाका बताया जाता है, इसे बफर जोन भी यहाँ पर कहा जाता है, जिसके अंदर इस वक्त हम इस ओपन व्हीकल के अंदर मौजूद है। और ये देखिए हमारे साथ जो वॉलंटियर्स हैं वो भी हाथों में हथियार लिए हुए इस वक्त फ्रंट लाइन की तरफ बढ़ते हुए साफ तौर पर देखे जा सकते हैं। इसके अलावा ये जो इलाका है, ये जो पहाड़ी इलाका है, ठीक उसी पहाड़ी इलाके से सामने से यहाँ पर फायरिंग की जाती है। और कहा जाता है कि कभी भी जो विरोधी गुट है यहाँ पर फायरिंग शुरू कर देता है। और यही वजह है कि अपनी सुरक्षा के लिए इस वक्त मैंने खुद यहाँ पर बुलेट प्रूफ जैकेट पहनी है। बिना बुलेट प्रूफ जैकेट के इस इलाके के अंदर आना बेहद मुश्किल है। और तस्वीरें आप देखिए किस तरीके से खुला मैदान और ठीक सामने आप ये देखिए पहाड़ी है और उसी पहाड़ी से बताया जाता है कि अक्सर यहाँ पर फायरिंग की जाती है। और इस फायरिंग के दौरान दोनों तरफ से कई लोगों की अब तक मौत हो चुकी है। और ये देखिए किस तरीके से लगातार जो वॉलंटियर्स हैं वो हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं हाथों में हथियार लिए हुए और वो अब से कुछ देर बाद हमें उसी फ्रंट लाइन पर लेकर जाएंगे। इस वक्त अब हम फ्रंट लाइन पर पहुंच चुके हैं और तस्वीरें आप देख सकते हैं ये वो फ्रंट लाइन है जहां पर ये देखिए किस तरीके से जो कुकी समुदाय है वो यहां पर 24 घंटे ठीक हथियारों के साथ इसी तरीके से पहरा देता है। और ठीक सामने जो आप ये पहाड़ी देख रहे हैं, दरअसल ये वो पहाड़ी है जहां से बताया जाता है कि कभी भी फायरिंग शुरू कर दी जाती है और इसी रास्ते से लगातार घुसपैठ करने की कोशिश भी विरोधी गुट की तरफ से की जाती है। और ये जो लोग आप देख रहे हैं इस वक्त, ये अपनी जमीन की रक्षा करने के लिए, खुद की रक्षा करने के लिए यहाँ पर हथियारों के साथ इस रास्ते पर ठीक इसी तरीके से 24 घंटे मौजूद होते हैं। ठीक सामने तस्वीरों में आप देख सकते हैं वहाँ पर बाकायदा बंकर बनाया गया है और उसी बंकर की मदद से ये लोग वहाँ पर जो फायरिंग होती है ठीक सामने से पहाड़ों के ऊपर से उस फायरिंग का जवाब देते हैं। और ये देखिए यहाँ पर कुछ घर भी आपको जले हुए दिखाई देंगे। ये दरअसल जिस वक्त हिंसा हुई थी उस दौरान ये घर यहाँ पर जलाए गए थे और उसके बाद से लगातार इस रास्ते पर यहाँ पर फ्रंट लाइन तैयार की गई है। देखिए हथियारों के साथ वहाँ पर बाकायदा एक शख्स आपको दिखाई देगा जो कि बंकर के ठीक नज़दीक खड़ा हुआ है। और ये वो रास्ता है, ये वो जगह है जहाँ जिसको फ्रंट लाइन कहा जाता है। TV9 भारतवर्ष आपको सबसे पहले ये फ्रंट लाइन इस वक्त यहाँ पर दिखा रहा है और ये वो फ्रंट लाइन है जो कि सबसे ज़्यादा बफर जोन यानी कि सबसे ज्यादा खतरनाक इलाका बताया जाता है। और ये देखिए किस तरीके से लगातार यहाँ पर दूरबीन के जरिए यहाँ पर नजर रखी जाती है। ठीक सामने ये देखिए बाकायदा बुलेट प्रूफ जैकेट के अंदर ये लोग मौजूद हैं और ये देखिए किस तरीके से ये लोग इस दूरबीन की मदद से कोशिश करते हैं कि ठीक सामने नजर रखें, वहां पर बंकर पर नजर रखें विरोधी गुट के, और अगर वहां से कोई हलचल होती तो उसके बाद ये लोग जवाबी कार्रवाई के लिए तैयार रहते हैं। और ये देखिए किस तरीके से ये जो घर आप देख रहे हैं, दरअसल ये घर डेविड का है, वो डेविड जिसकी बेहद बर्बरता से गर्दन जो है वो धड़ से अलग कर दी गई थी और उसके बाद इसी गांव के अंदर जो विरोधी गुट है वो उस धड़ को लेकर, उस सर को लेकर यहाँ पर घूमता रहा ताकि दहशत पैदा की जा सके अपने विरोधी गुट के अंदर यानी कि कुकीज के अंदर। और उसके बाद ठीक ये वो जगह है जहां पर उसकी लाश को जलाया गया था होगा और यहाँ पर बाकायदा फ्लैग भी लगाया गया। और ये देखिए जो तमाम लोग हैं वो आपको यहाँ पर वेपन्स के साथ 24 घंटे ठीक इसी तरीके से, चाहे बारिश हो या फिर कड़ी धूप हो, अंधेरा हो, 24 घंटे इसी तरीके से हथियारों के साथ आपको यहाँ पर तैनात दिखाई देंगे। ये वो फ्रंट लाइन है जिसका जिक्र हम कर रहे थे और इसी फ्रंट लाइन तक पहुँचने के लिए हमें तकरीबन 1 से 1.5 घंटा लगा पहाड़ों में। और ये देखिए किस तरीके से लगातार ये लोग यहाँ पर हथियारों के दम पर, इनका दावा है कि अपनी ज़मीन की रक्षा करते हैं, इस फ्रंट लाइन पर 24 घंटे यहाँ पर इन्हीं हथियारों के साथ तैनात रहते हैं।
So basically what has happened is, what I can get, because these are different parts of the reportage which Jitendra has done, is that people have created fronts, and these fronts are on ethnic lines. These are not the natural boundaries. It's not like Himalayas, these fronts are not like there was a book on geography written by an author called Kaplan, the limits of geography, in which geography decides the way nations behave. For example, Pacific is important to the United States of America, or why Russia is fighting Ukraine because it's their soft underbelly. You can actually drive to Moscow because it's just 500 kilometers away and they don't have any natural barrier, or why Himalayas are so important for India, or the why China's strategic interests are there in the South China Sea. So, Professor, it's very evident that the so-called front line is not a geographical front line; it's an ethnic front line,
which are drawn based on where violence and violent incidents have happened. And the experience of being violated is something that has guided these people to come together and to protect these areas. So that's a kind of an instinctive way of protecting oneself. And this has certain amount of instrumentality, a certain kind of an instrumentation rather. And those instruments are not very important. What is important is this inner fabric of insecurity, this sense of being attacked, or this sense of being under the gaze of the enemy is something. So why can't we remove the gaze of the enemy? That's something very, very important in order to remove these barriers and artificial barricades that have come across all over. Now there are partners, there are parties involved in this kind of a division, in this kind of a readiness for fighting each other. So this should be de-escalated, and this de-escalation can happen provided there is enough works of care, enough caring hands really reach to everyone. That is not reaching. Somewhere that overarching role of the state has gone down completely. It has decentered itself into this kind of vigilante activism. Activism is fine, but vigilantism resulting into a kind of an internecine clash in ethnic lines, turning into a kind of racial hatred, and combining with a kind of a sexist violence at this point of time, is something reprehensible, barbaric, and it reminds you of Vietnam War, it reminds you of Nazi days, it reminds you all ghastly crimes against humanity. So the situation is such that such crimes can happen here in Manipur, and this is just unacceptable from the democratic point of view. I think a steady and a strict intervention must happen right now, but it is not just by putting boots on the ground. It is also by putting hands of care on the ground. So boots and hands must come together from the side of the state, which is not coming forth as much as it should have come forth. And this is a big regret. Days after days, we are regretting about it. We are thinking and talking in a very polished and a polite voice. Our voices are not heard. So we are in a lamentable situation, a total emptiness that surrounds us, that makes us pain, grief, and mourn about what that is happening in the state of Manipur, which is part and parcel of India. Why are you allowing it to degrade so much that it becomes a second Kashmir, that the entire security system becomes palpable and deplorable? That is not at all called for.
Okay. I think that's very beautifully put. I'm also joined by Yashowardhan Azad ji. He's former Secretary, Cabinet Secretariat, someone who understands security, someone who also understands the issue of rights, information. My first question to you, I don't want to start with the usual thing. Why can't internet be allowed in its full spectrum in Manipur? It's more than 90 days. Azad sir, why this limited broadband? Why can't people access net? I mean to say, complete paramilitarization of the society has taken place. I'll show you the ground report also, where where the bullets, weapons are casually resting with those who are advocates, bottle makers, in juice industry, and they're defending their what? They're defending their land. The land is supposed to be defended by Indian Army, paramilitary and security forces. They defend it. So the people are defending the land. But more than that, why no complete access to internet? Internet is not now gimmick game. It's service.
Well, internet shutdowns have been resorted by authorities in the state or by the center. Initially, when there is an unfolding of a huge crisis, say for example in a communal situation or in a question of complete breakdown of law and order machinery, it may help for a few days because you want things to get into order, you want the law and order to get into shape, and you want things to be arranged at that particular place. Now, in this case, it has gone too far. And I agree with you that beyond a week or so, the internet shutdowns, in fact, become more disadvantageous. Mind you, in Manipur, the students are affected, the industry is affected, the people are affected, and the common man is affected. Now, the reason given is, Kartikeya, that, there should not be any kind of rumors, there could not be any kind of floating of unwanted videos. But the point is, these kind of rumors are taking place through other means. I mean, mouth to mouth, things are going on. So, in fact, with the internet, if you use it properly and the state uses it, the NGO and the civil societies use it, the appeals are made by the peace committees, it's going to make a positive impact too. So, I think overall, if you look at it, internet shutdowns for more than 2 months, they become self-defeating. And I agree with you at this particular point of time, when people are suffering so much, the refugees who are in camps, I think their number is around 50,000. It has become really self-defeating, and we should get the internet back. The High Court had given an order, and now I believe only broadband is allowed, yet the mobile internet, mobile Wi-Fi, all that is not allowed. So people will be still in the dark. The information is not coming. And it's about time. It's about 3 months. Either the house should have been set in order and things should be functioning. So at least give the people the basic things, which is their right.
Okay. I'm also joined by noted author Rami Niranjan Desai. Rami, I'll play out a walkthrough. This is from a bunker and I'll take your comment, We have done a full-fledged ground report from Manipur. Have a look at the walkthrough, then I'll frame my question. Let's play out that walkthrough from the bunker.
तकरीबन 40 मिनट पहाड़ों में चलने के बाद इस वक्त हम एक और पोस्ट पर पहुंचे और ये देखें, मैं दिखाना चाहूँगा आपको पोस्ट। इस पोस्ट के ऊपर भी वॉलंटियर्स मौजूद हैं जो कि 24 घंटे यहाँ पर ठीक हथियारों के साथ ड्यूटी देते हुए दिखाई दे रहे हैं। और तस्वीरें आप देखिए, तमाम तरीके के जो वेपन्स हैं यहाँ पर इन्होंने अपनी सुरक्षा के लिए, अपनी ज़मीन को बचाने के लिए यहाँ पर रखे हुए हैं। आप ये देखिए किस तरीके से सिंगल बैरल यहाँ पर रखी हुई है। इसके अलावा ये देखिए अपनी ज़मीन को बचाने के लिए किस तरीके से 24 घंटे ये सामने नज़र रखते हैं। ठीक सामने आप ये पहाड़ी देख रहे हैं, ये वो पहाड़ी है जहाँ से फायरिंग होती है। और ठीक ये सामने देखिए बंकर यहाँ पर बनाया गया है, तमाम वेपन यहाँ पर, लाइव कार्टेजेस। इसके अलावा ये देखिए यहाँ पर बाकायदा यहाँ पर ये दूरबीन भी रखी गई है और इसी दूरबीन की मदद से देखा जाता है कि आखिरकार ये फायरिंग हो किधर की तरफ से रही है और उसके बाद उस फायरिंग का ये लोग जवाबी कार्रवाई उसको रिटेलिएट ये लोग करते हैं। और तस्वीरें आप देख सकते हैं किस तरीके से ये जो बंकर है, दरअसल ये जो स्थानीय लोग हैं उन्होंने अपने बंकर यहाँ पर बनाए हुए हैं। और बंकर के अंदर देखिए किस तरीके से यहाँ पर बाकायदा टॉर्च यहाँ पर आपको दिखाई देगी, यहाँ पर आपको लाइव कार्टेजेस दिखाई देंगे, यहाँ पर सिंगल बैरल जो बंदूकें हैं वो यहाँ पर दिखाई देंगी। और ये देखिए किस तरीके से वेपन्स यहाँ पर इन्होंने लिए हुए हैं। बाय प्रोफेशन आप क्या हैं?
साउंड इंजीनियर सर। साउंड इंजीनियर।
ओके, तो आप साउंड इंजीनियर हैं और कब से यहाँ ड्यूटी दे रहे हैं? कब से ड्यूटी दे रहे हैं यहाँ पर?
Plus?
Since how long you here?
It's around 2 months. From the conflict, they are already here. It's a Renkai village volunteer. They have been here for the past 2 months.
You are a businessman?
Yes, I am an entrepreneur.
Okay.
This is my own product.
What was your business?
I manufacture juice plus I own a bottling company.
Then why are you here?
I am here because I need to protect my land. I need to live my business.
तो आप देखिए अपनी जमीन को बचाने के लिए, क्योंकि अब दरअसल दोनों गुट आमने सामने हैं और एक दूसरे की जमीन को कब्जाने की जो जंग है वो यहाँ पर शुरू हो गई है और उसके बाद इस जंग को बिना हथियारों के ये लोग नहीं जीत सकते। और ये देखिए यही वजह है कि वॉकी टॉकी इसके अलावा वेपन्स के साथ यहाँ पर ये देखिए ये बंकर है और इसी बंकर के अंदर 24 घंटे ये लोग यहाँ मौजूद रहते हैं। और ठीक इसी बंकर में यहाँ पर बैठकर ठीक सामने जो आप ये पहाड़ी देख रहे हैं, इसी पहाड़ी की तरफ इनकी 24 घंटे नजर होती है, जहां से कभी भी इनके ऊपर फायरिंग शुरू हो जाती है और उसके बाद इन्हीं बंदूकों की मदद से ये लोग विरोधी गुट को जवाब दे पाते हैं। तो देखिए चारों तरफ आपको यहाँ पर वेपन्स दिखाई देंगे। ये देखिए आपको यहाँ पर जो लाइव कार्टेजेस हैं वो यहाँ पर दिखाई देंगे रखे हुए, और इन्हीं की मदद से ये लोग अपनी जमीन को बचाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, ऐसा इनका कहना है।
So Azad Saab, if you look at this ground report, you have people with weapons. They are advocates. They are people from different walks of life. They have done their barricading. In another walkthrough, I'll show you. One person is saying they allow Assam Rifle, Indian Army, and media to pass by. How do you understand this paramilitarization? You know, it's like they have created their own security zones, and the forces of the state somehow live in a parallel universes with the forces on ground.
Are you asking me, Kartikeya?
Absolutely, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you know, I was watching this and I'm actually horrified. But it happens if you have a protracted civil war of this kind, where it goes on continuing into a stalemate with neither side believing the other side and perhaps losing faith in the ability of the state administration also to bring about order or any kind of peace, then these things are bound to happen. You know, I'm so sorry to see this, that these young men of such great promise, if only they were fighting for our motherland together or fighting for the state or becoming a part of the civil society to keep peace together. But unfortunately, you know, the bunkerized version which we see today, you know, earlier we saw that there were bunkers prepared to save the villages. And now these are these outposts which have been created. This is leading us into a deeper spiral of you know, violence, you know, which is begetting violence. And therefore, I think, Kartikeya, this is immediately the time for government to strike. They should dismiss this government totally. In fact, I would also suggest that in the president's rule, they must get a governor who's knowledgeable of the area, who's from one of these. There are excellent officers from this cadre in the IAS and IPS who would love to respond to the call of the state. He should be brought in, or she should be brought in as a governor. The advisors should be brought in immediately. You know, and there it should also be you know, a tall leader like Gadkari should be nominated to start the political law. There is no time to lose now, because if this goes on for a long time, you'll actually need a formal ceasefire to be brought about between these you know, opposing militias. And mind you, apart from these people who are trying to save their land, we have the vigilantes, as the esteemed professor was saying earlier. We have these youth groups. We have this group of lumpens. And we still have 3,000 arms which are outside with the unwanted elements. Out of the 4,500, only 1,000 have been brought in. So you can imagine that these 3,000 weapons which will go into the hand of these militants or other people, we are in a state of absolute fluid condition. And also remember, the suspension of operations, there is no clarity. The state had stopped, they said we don't recognize it anymore. And we have about 2,200 cadres living in those 18 camps. and there is no verification whether they are there, whether there are any weapons. We have no verification about on the meitei side whether those people who are creating trouble have been arrested or not. The crimes which had taken place against the women and other crimes, whether the process has begun or not. So, given this condition, unless we act immediately, this will go into a downward spiral of violence. And I'm very sorry to see this state of affairs.
Rami is back with us. Rami, this is a ground report with many other ground reports in which clearly it shows that the society had reorganized itself. The weapons are there. They have become comfortable. The so-called, borders have been redrawn not on the basis of geography but on the basis of ethnicity. So if you look at these ground reports, you will understand that there is a coexistence of different forces of the state with those which are organizing themselves locally, and they are primarily at a very ethnic lines. Your first comment, Rami.
Kartikeya, Brijesh, good morning. Of course, we've seen this conflict go on for many months now. I have to say, as much as it is very difficult for us to watch one of our states be in conflict like this amongst populations that have lived together for centuries, we also have to recognize the fact that violence is tapering. The incidence of violence has gone down. And as I have been discussing this with you from the very beginning, you may remember that, there was a time when there was absolutely no voices heard from either of the sides calling for peace. They were very hardlined into what they wanted and how they saw the developments in the future. Wherein what is heartwarming now is the same voices I see now are ready to secede space. They are ready to go into dialogue and are tired of the state of flux that the communities are in. But having said that, we must also recognize the fact that a lot of the northeastern states have had village guards, which means people from the villages that are positioned to protect their villages, not just for events like this, for other events as well. And those are the guards that we see in Manipur. So as much as we may think that these are locals who picked up arms or are being positioned to save themselves, that may be one of the reasons. But the other reasons is that the northeastern states has had this organization of village guards that is made out of people who are between the ages of 21 and 50, who have known to have good characters and are from the villages themselves. It was just yesterday that I think, if I'm not mistaken, that Nagaland also appealed for such village guards to be given a stipend as well by the government. So this is that level of organization also that we are seeing in Manipur. And I think, because the village guards are from the villages, they're duty bound to stand guard and protect their villages and the villagers. So, as much as we are seeing this organization in one lens, we also have to see that these organizations have existed for a while. But having said that, the fault lines, we've discussed this multiple times before, the fault lines have deepened to an extent that is not even close to ideal. And I think those fault lines are going to be very difficult to bridge, not just because of the trust deficit now, but because, I think there is a very inherent fear of the other that has seeped in. We will really have to move very quickly on our civil society engagements. And like I said, I've seen like a shift from a point where nobody was willing to go into dialogue with each other to today the same civil society is willing to go into dialogue with each other. Of course, that will need a neutral mediator, that necessarily doesn't need to be from the government or, from either of the tribes. The Nagas are the third party in Manipur, so maybe the Nagas can step up and be mediators, or, other vested parties from across the country can be mediators. But I think with a neutral mediator, the groups now that are willing to engage must be brought on ground, and that engagement must begin now. And I also think, I had mentioned this right at the beginning, Kartikeya, if you remember, that, the larger fear is of a ripple effect. And that ripple effect has a potential to destabilize a region that has, definitely seen relative peace. And we are seeing certain kind of developments take place in states like Mizoram. I think there has to be immediate intervention there. We cannot allow any sort of ripple effect to have any sort of position in other states joining Manipur, because that puts the fear of another bout of violence starting, which we cannot at this point afford. So I think these are the areas that we really need to focus on, and we really need to intervene.
Okay, and let me play out another walkthrough so that what's happening at a local level becomes evident. And in this walkthrough, what becomes evident is complete reorganization of civic life independent from civilian authorities. Anyway, the military part has already been shown. This walkthrough will actually show you how villages have reorganized themselves completely.
True.
फ्रंट लाइन की तरफ बढ़ते हुए पहाड़ों के ठीक बीचों बीच इसी रास्ते पर हमें एक पोस्ट दिखाई दी, और ये देखिए पोस्ट पर यहाँ पर तमाम जो वॉलंटियर्स हैं वो यहाँ पर मौजूद हैं। 24 घंटे यहाँ पर ड्यूटी दे रहे हैं ताकि जो विरोधी गुट है वो अंदर एंटर ना कर पाए। जानने की कोशिश करते कि आखिरकार इस पोस्ट की जरूरत क्यों पड़ी। नाम क्या है?
मेरा नाम सैमुअल है। मैं
कहाँ के रहने वाले हैं आप? इसी इलाके के रहने वाले?
मैं इसी इलाके का रहने वाला तो नहीं हूँ, फिर भी दूसरे गाँव से आया हूँ मैं।
अच्छा, किस लिए आप लोग यहाँ?
सिर्फ और सिर्फ अपने ज़मीन को प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए आए हैं हम लोग। ना ही हमें उनका ज़मीन चाहिए, सिर्फ और सिर्फ हमारा जो भी गांव जलाया गया है वो हम लोग वापस लेना चाहते हैं। और जितना भी गांव हम इन्होंने जलाया बस हमें वो वापस कर दीजिएगा, और जितना भी इम्फाल वैली में आप लोगों ने जलाया वो आप रख लीजिएगा। हम अपने गाँव से सहमत है, उनको अपना इम्फाल वैली चाहिए, उनको रहने दीजिएगा।
अच्छा, आप बाय प्रोफेशन क्या है, आप क्या करते हैं?
बाय प्रोफेशन तो मैं एडवोकेट हूँ, फिर भी हमारे लोगों को वॉलंटियर्स चाहिए था, इसलिए हमने पार्टिसिपेट किया इस चीज़ के लिए।
तो यहाँ पर भी फायरिंग वगैरह होती है?
यहाँ पे भी फायरिंग हुआ था पिछली बार। अगर आपको लोगों को पता होगा तो देवित की हत्या जो बहुत ही बेरहमी से मारा गया था, उसका गला काटा गया था। उस दिन के बाद से यहाँ पे फायरिंग हुआ था। फिर अभी 1 सप्ताह हो गया, अभी फायरिंग नहीं हुई इस जगह पे।
आप लोग 24 घंटे इस पोस्ट पर रहते हैं?
ऐसा है कि हमारा रोटेशन सिस्टम चलता है। मान के चलिए 5-5 घंटा 2-2 ग्रुप वहाँ पे बैठते हैं, उसके बाद फिर हमारे अपने आप चेंज होते रहते हैं। कुछ लोग इन्हें अलग-अलग भाषा में कहते हैं।
जी बताइए, क्या लगता है आपको कब तक ये नॉर्मल हो पाएगा?
देखिए, अभी तो सरकार के ऊपर है, सेंटर अभी बात कर रहे हैं अभी हमारे लोग से भी। फिर भी हम ये चाहते हैं कि हमारे देश के प्रधानमंत्री जी मोदी जी कुछ बोले। अभी तक उन्होंने कुछ बोला नहीं, ये कहा गया है, ये हमें बहुत दुख लगता है। फिर भी अगर सेंटर अगर कुछ कर सकती है तो जल्द से जल्द करना चाहिए। सबसे बड़ी डिमांड तो हमारी थी कि राष्ट्रपति शासन लाना चाहिए था यहाँ पे, बट यहाँ के मुख्यमंत्री ने रिजाइन करने से मना किया है। ये चीज़ को लेके सेंटर से हमें बहुत दुख है ये बात को लेके।
अच्छा, ये बताइए इस पोस्ट की जरूरत क्यों पड़ी? क्या यहाँ पर लोगों को चेक करते हैं आप लोग? कैसे क्या काम करते हैं?
देखिए, मेनली क्या होता है कि हर जगह लोग आना चाहते हैं इस तरफ भी। हम लोग सिर्फ अपने मीडिया लोगों को और अपने वॉलंटियर्स लोगों को और आर्मी और असम राइफल को हम यहाँ पे जाने देते हैं। और वैसे सिविलियन लोग और अलाउड नहीं है, पर कोई कुछ काम होगा तो हम लोग अलाउ कर देते हैं।
आप लोग एंट्री वगैरह भी करते हैं रजिस्टर के अंदर?
हाँ, अगर जो भी मान के चलिए यहाँ के गांव के रहने वाले लोग हैं उनको आना है तो वो आ सकते हैं, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है उसके ऊपर।
तो बिल्कुल ये देखिए, ये ठीक पहाड़ों के बीचों बीच आप ये पोस्ट बनी देखेंगे, और इस पोस्ट पर वॉलंटियर्स जो है वो 24 घंटे यहाँ पर तैनात रहते हैं। बाकायदा इस पोस्ट से गुजरने वालों की सबके नाम नंबर यहाँ पर रजिस्टर के अंदर लिखे भी जाते हैं। और दरअसल यहीं से कुछ दूरी पर जब आप आगे जाएंगे तो एक डेविड नाम के शख्स की बड़ी बेरहमी से हत्या की गई थी। उसकी गर्दन को धड़ से अलग कर दिया गया था, और उसके बाद उसी गाँव के अंदर उसके धड़ को घुमाया गया हाथ में लेकर, और फिर ठीक उसके घर के सामने उसे दीवार के ऊपर टांग दिया गया था। तो दरअसल ये जो विरोधी गुट था वो इस गुट के अंदर अपनी एक दहशत कायम करना चाहता था, और उसी को लेकर इस हत्या को बेहद बर्बरता से अंजाम दिया गया। और अब ये देखिए किस तरीके से जो तमाम इस वक्त यहाँ पर वॉलंटियर्स हैं वो यहाँ पर मौजूद हैं। 24 घंटे वॉकी टॉकी के साथ ये लोग यहाँ पर मौजूद रहते हैं। तो आप तस्वीरें देख सकते हैं किस तरीके से जो वॉलंटियर्स हैं वो ठीक इस पोस्ट के ऊपर मौजूद हैं, और इसी तरीके से 24 घंटे अपनी ड्यूटी को यहाँ पर अंजाम देते हुए देखे जा सकते हैं।
Which has been done right at front of that place where that gruesome incident took place.
इस वक्त अब हम फ्रंट लाइन पर पहुंच चुके हैं और तस्वीरें आप देख सकते हैं। ये वो फ्रंट लाइन है जहां पर ये देखिए किस तरीके से जो कुकी समुदाय है वो यहां पर 24 घंटे ठीक हथियारों के साथ इसी तरीके से पहरा देता है। और ठीक सामने जो आप ये पहाड़ी देख रहे हैं, दरअसल ये वो पहाड़ी है जहां से बताया जाता है कि कभी भी फायरिंग शुरू कर दी जाती है और इसी रास्ते से लगातार घुसपैठ करने की कोशिश भी विरोधी गुट की तरफ से की जाती है। और ये जो लोग आप देख रहे हैं इस वक्त, ये अपनी जमीन की रक्षा करने के लिए, खुद की रक्षा करने के लिए यहां पर हथियारों के साथ इस रास्ते पर ठीक इसी तरीके से 24 घंटे मौजूद होते हैं। ठीक सामने तस्वीरों में आप देख सकते हैं वहां पर बाकायदा बंकर बनाया गया है और उसी बंकर की मदद से ये लोग वहां पर जो फायरिंग होती है ठीक सामने से पहाड़ों के ऊपर से उस फायरिंग का जवाब देते हैं। और ये देखिए यहाँ पर कुछ घर भी आपको जले हुए दिखाई देंगे। ये दरअसल जिस वक्त हिंसा हुई थी उस दौरान ये घर यहाँ पर जलाए गए थे और उसके बाद से लगातार इस रास्ते पर यहाँ पर फ्रंट लाइन तैयार की गई है। देखिए हथियारों के साथ वहाँ पर बाकायदा एक शख्स आपको दिखाई देगा जो कि बंकर के ठीक नज़दीक खड़ा हुआ है। और ये वो रास्ता है, ये वो जगह है जहाँ जिसको फ्रंट लाइन कहा जाता है। TV9 भारतवर्ष आपको सबसे पहले ये फ्रंट लाइन इस वक्त यहाँ पर दिखा रहा है और ये वो फ्रंट लाइन है जो कि सबसे ज़्यादा बफर जोन यानी कि सबसे ज्यादा खतरनाक इलाका बताया जाता है। और ये देखिए किस तरीके से लगातार यहां पर दूरबीन के जरिए यहां पर नजर रखी जाती है। ठीक सामने ये देखिए बाकायदा बुलेट प्रूफ जैकेट के अंदर ये लोग मौजूद हैं और ये देखिए किस तरीके से ये लोग इस दूरबीन की मदद से कोशिश करते हैं कि ठीक सामने नजर रखें, वहां पर बंकर पर नजर रखें विरोधी गुट के, और अगर वहां से कोई हलचल होती तो उसके बाद ये लोग जवाबी कार्रवाई के लिए तैयार रहते हैं। और ये देखिए किस तरीके से ये जो घर आप देख रहे हैं, दरअसल ये घर डेविड का है, वो डेविड जिसकी बेहद बर्बरता से गर्दन जो है वो धड़ से अलग कर दी गई थी। और उसके बाद इसी गांव के अंदर जो विरोधी गुट है वो उस धड़ को लेकर, उस सर को लेकर यहां पर घूमता रहा ताकि दहशत पैदा की जा सके अपने विरोधी गुट के अंदर यानी कि कुकीज के अंदर। और उसके बाद ठीक ये वो जगह है जहां पर उसकी लाश को जलाया गया था और यहां पर बाकायदा फ्लैग भी लगाया गया। और ये देखिए जो तमाम लोग हैं वो आपको यहां पर वेपन्स के साथ 24 घंटे ठीक इसी तरीके से, चाहे बारिश हो या फिर कड़ी धूप हो, अंधेरा हो, 24 घंटे इसी तरीके से हथियारों के साथ आपको यहां पर तैनात दिखाई देंगे। ये वो फ्रंट लाइन है जिसका जिक्र हम कर रहे थे और इसी फ्रंट लाइन तक पहुंचने के लिए हमें तकरीबन 1 से 1.5 घंटा लगा पहाड़ों में। और ये देखिए किस तरीके से लगातार ये लोग यहां पर हथियारों के दम पर, इनका दावा है कि अपनी जमीन की रक्षा करते हैं, इस फ्रंट लाइन पर 24 घंटे यहां पर इन्हीं हथियारों के साथ तैनात रहते हैं।
So now coming back to you, Azad Saab. Now 3 things have become very evident. One, that you have guns out there. Second, they have not come back. Third, they have become part and parcel of the civilian life. So with the initial hunch which was there that they were not looted but melted away, given away, is very much out there. And this is why, despite the drop boxes and everything which was in place, nothing has come back to the state administration. Second thing which becomes very clear is that there is sort of a parcelization of authority which is very evident, and the third thing which is life continues, but it is allowed by the ethnicity leaders, which person, which cavalcade, who goes where and why. So you have seen Naxalite affected areas. How do you define this form of paramilitarization?
Well, I would say that Manipur today has become a militarized state because if you have bunkers and arms guarding every village, obviously it's a militarized situation where there are a number of arms floating, whether genuine or the fake ones, illegal ones. And the other, which is even worse, I would say that the battle lines have extremely hardened, as you said, the ethnicity divide. So the geographical boundaries having been marked, if you see the firing coming from the mountain ranges and the bunkers and the outposts you're replying to it, means that these are conditions which are very serious now. After a protracted civil war, the conditions for peace talks, everything evaporate. We were hoping that the violence, with the violence ebbing, there would be a ground created for talks to take place. But these are militarized areas. These have become kind of war zones where each is to its own. And look at some of the things which are pointed out are very, this walkthrough was extremely important and informative. The person says with angst that the scars will be remembered of the person who was, beheaded of the villages which have been burned, and how they would like to take their villages and would like their people to get back. So he's also talked about the intervention of the center. He's talked about Prime Minister, about speaking on Manipur. Now look at these are coming from the people who are in the war zone. And I think this is an excellent informative piece which should reach Delhi, where it's a call, it's a bleeding cry to impose president's rule. Because if you have an administration which is either perceived inefficient or perceived one-sided, that's not the ground to create peace. That's not the ground to have a peaceful law and order situation. And therefore, I'm saying, look at, and one more thing, Kartikeya, look at what is happening as a fallout. You have 3,000 refugees in Nagaland and in Assam, but you have 50,000 Mizoram. 35,000 had gone from Myanmar, and 12,000 have already gone from here, and the CM has asked for 10 crores from PM to rehabilitate, and there is a counter call also by the. So this is a time to intervene, and I would once again plead the center to intervene.
Okay, Rami, NCW is there, DCW is there. I think the utmost importance should be paid to the victims of, especially women who have been victim of sexual violence. How do you evaluate the work which is being done? You know, there has to be NCW, there has to be Manipur Commission for Women. You know, no such recordings have taken place. But how do you start the process of healing unless and until you record what they have undergone? If you accept what they have undergone, and then the justice takes place, and with that the healing takes place, how do you expect society to heal itself if you don't record those memories? It's like Germany erasing Auschwitz and Krakow. So the generations don't know the ugliness of it. You remember the ugliness of it because it's documented. You feel it, you live through it. So if you don't have those memories, I won't want to use the word preserved, recorded. How do you know that, how will the coming generation know that this happened and it should never happen again?
Kartikeya, of course, what has happened on ground, and especially against the vulnerable groups like women and children, is absolutely unacceptable. I think we all have a consensus on that. But the fact of the matter is that in most of the conflicts, it is the women and children that get impacted the most. And also in conflicts like this, look at where it started. It started with removal of illegal settlements, and then the scheduled tribe inclusion recommendation, and look where it's reached. What do women and children have to do with it? But when a conflict becomes this vicious, this heated, and this prolonged, unfortunately, the fringe elements do take over, the criminal elements do take over, and we lose a sense of our humanity. And imagine that these are in states where women play such a forward role, where women are known to be very strong. Of course, there has to be accountability in this case. There is no denying that. There has been delay in processes. There is no denying that. And there has to be some sort of rehabilitation, and there has to be immense amount of trust building exercises, because I think even if this happens with one woman on ground, the impact that it has on how a woman feels secure in states like this, or in a situation or in an environment like this, will have an impact on all the women in the state. So of course, these measures have to be taken. However, when we talk about recording any of these incidents, or remembering any of these incidents, we also must remember that it has to be done in a way, it has to be done at a time. And when I say this, I don't mean that accountability should not be asked for, and justice should not be given, and the right procedures and processes to rehabilitate women who have been impacted in any way should not happen. What I am saying is that, visuals or stories that are absolutely conscience shaking, like we saw a couple of days ago, there is a time when they should be exposed, or the public should be exposed to it, because the chances of it again lighting any sort of memory that results in violence erupting again should be avoided at this point at any cost. Even though we are seeing a tapering of incidents, violent incidents going down, the fact is emotions are still very high. So, the kind of visuals that go out or the kind of messaging that goes out has to be very, very careful at this point, And this in no mean, by no means do I mean that we should wipe it out of our memory. No, there will be a time where we will be able to discuss this openly, where we will be able to seek justice on all levels without any repercussion happening. I am very sure of that. And I think that is the time, that these cases can be discussed in detail. I must also remind you that, we've had conflicts like this in Manipur before. And even then, it was the women who were impacted, but it was also the women who took center stage to call for peace. And I think that is the kind of voices that we need to hear again today. Instead of seeing visuals again of women not allowing forces to do their job, we need to see the rational voices amongst women.
Rami, you have been part of our conversation for a very long time, and Azad Saab also, but today there is a difference, My conversation today are not based on odd WhatsApp visual which I have farmed from social media. It is not based on some information that has been published by local media which I have accessed and catalogued. Neither this discussion is based on what's happening in Parliament. You would have noticed that I have not said a word, used the word Amit Shah, Prime Minister, Mallikarjun Kharge, Sonia Gandhi, Rahul Gandhi, nothing. I'm just trying to decipher 1.5 to 2 hours of visuals which I have got from Manipur. Because limited internet access is there, so we can do that. I'm not saying that the guy who's gone there knows everything about Manipur, but at least he has been able to capture what is there on surface. It's easier to go to Churachandpur. I know it's difficult for him to go to north. In those Naga areas where they themselves have, if you recall, that there was a call for a bandh given. So obviously, we have done a reportage from areas which are accessible, but today's conversation is about how the life has changed. I mean to say, the life may not have changed permanently there, but certain things tell us that they are new normal. Imphal is behaving very differently from Churachandpur. Though there is an administration and chief minister there, Article 355 is in force, correct, Brijesh? Article 355 is in force, and you see this sort of a paramilitarization of society. After a political hue and cry, you have NCW and DCW there. I don't know what sort of recording, there are rules for such recording. What sort of recording are taking place? Are they recording it in video? Are they creating those testimonies which can be produced in the court of law? One. Secondly, there's a third part of economy, which we haven't touched, which I'll show you, that there are areas where police paramilitary is being deployed so that paddy can be sowed. If they don't do the paddy work now, Manipur will have a shortfall of rice. I haven't even touched the issue of economy. I haven't even touched the issue of waste disposal, because Rami, when I was in Syria, I had this in 2018, when I was ending my tour, I had come back from Aleppo. I had the chance to meet the minister there, deputy foreign minister, and I said, you can say it was very foolish of me. There were clean areas, and then there are areas piled with garbage, because civil institutions have melted away. So then there is that aspect also. Basic things we don't talk about. Water. We will show you the shops. You have shops which are closed. Completely closed. So that civilian process of buying thing is not taking place. So you have relief work which is taking place. So all that will be shown to you. So today we base our conversation on what we have from the ground, not on the politics of it, not on the narrative making overdrive which happens in Delhi, but purely on the visual and the merit of the journalism. Lakshmi, please play out the remaining 3 walkthroughs for our guests.
इस वक्त टीवी 9 भारतवर्ष फ्रंट लाइन पर पहुंच चुका है। देखिए फ्रंट लाइन पर किस तरीके से यहां पर हथियारों के साथ जो तमाम वॉयलेंटर्स हैं वो यहां पर आपको तस्वीरों में साफ तौर पर दिखाई देंगे। ये वो फ्रंट लाइन है जहां पर अक्सर आमने सामने दोनों गुटों के बीच फायरिंग होती है। ठीक सामने आप ये देखिए एक बांस का यहाँ पर बैरिकेड बनाया गया है, ठीक इससे चंद कदमों की दूरी पर बाकायदा बंकर है। और ये देखिए इसी फ्रंट लाइन पर 24 घंटे ये वॉलंटियर्स यहाँ पर मौजूद रहते हैं, हाथों में हथियार लेकर। इसके अलावा इनके पास लाइव कार्टेजेस यहाँ पर मौजूद हैं। और अगर कोई भी इन्फिल्ट्रेट करने की कोशिश करता है, यानी कि अगर विरोधी गुट इनके इलाके में घुसपैठ करने की कोशिश करता है, तो उसे ठीक यहीं पर रोकने की कवायद या फिर कहीं हथियारों के बल पर रोकने की कोशिश इनकी तरफ से शुरू कर दी जाती है। और ये देखिए तमाम जो वॉलंटियर्स हैं वो आपको अंदर खड़े हुए दिखाई देंगे, क्योंकि इस वक्त यहाँ तेज बारिश हो रही है। और ये तमाम जो लोग हैं उनके हाथों में हथियार भी साफ तौर पर यहाँ पर देखे जा सकते हैं। और इन्हीं हथियारों के दम पर ये अपनी ज़मीन को, जैसा कि इनका दावा है कि अपनी ज़मीन को बचाने की जद्दोजहद यहाँ पर लड़ रहे हैं। और इसी फ्रंट लाइन पर अक्सर दोनों गुट आमने सामने फायरिंग करते हुए भी देखे जाते हैं। TV9 भारतवर्ष इस वक्त फ्रंट लाइन पर मौजूद है। इसे फ्रंट लाइन क्यों कहते हैं, आपको समझाने की कोशिश करते हैं। दरअसल ये जो आप यहाँ पर देख रहे हैं, जहाँ पर ये सड़क को खोदा गया है, ये ठीक सामने ये मैतई का इलाका बताया जाता है। और इस वक्त जहां मैं मौजूद हूं, ये दरअसल बताया जाता है कुकीज़ का इलाका है। और ठीक उसके बीच में बाकायदा ये यहाँ पर ये देखिए रास्ते को खोद दिया गया है, यानी कि मैतई कुकी के इलाके में नहीं आ सकते और जो कुकी हैं वो मैतई के इलाके में नहीं जा सकते। और इसीलिए इसे फ्रंट लाइन कहा जाता है। और इस फ्रंट लाइन पर 24 घंटे ठीक इस तरीके से हथियारों के साथ ये लोग यहाँ पर पहरा देते हुए भी साफ तौर पर देखे जा सकते हैं। और ये जो फ्रंट लाइन है इस वक्त आपको TV9 भारतवर्ष सबसे पहले यहाँ पर दिखा रहा है। सबसे पहले TV9 भारतवर्ष इस फ्रंट लाइन पर पहुंचा और इसी फ्रंट लाइन के ऊपर 24 घंटे ठीक इस तरीके से जो तमाम आप यहाँ पर वॉलंटियर्स देख रहे हैं, वो तमाम ये सभी लोग इसी तरीके से हथियारों के साथ यहाँ पर 24 घंटे पहरा देते हैं। ये ठीक सामने ये जो बंकर बनाए हुए हैं, इन्हीं बंकरों के अंदर ये मौजूद रहते हैं। ठीक सामने इन्होंने अपने रहने के लिए जगह बनाई हुई है, उसी जगह के अंदर ये 24 घंटे रहकर यहाँ पहरा देते हैं। ठीक सामने देखिए पहाड़ी है, ये जो पहाड़ी इलाका आप देख रहे हैं, जो ठीक सामने कुछ घर आपको दिखाई दे रहे हैं, दरअसल ये तमाम घर मैतई के बताए जाते हैं। और इसी जगह से कभी भी बताया जाता है कि इस फ्रंट लाइन पर कभी भी दोनों तरफ से फायरिंग शुरू हो जाती है। बेहद खतरनाक इलाका बताया जाता है, बफर जोन इसको कहा जाता है। और इस वक्त यहाँ पर TV9 भारतवर्ष सबसे पहले इस बफर जोन की आपको तस्वीरें दिखा रहा है। और ये देखिए किस तरीके से यहाँ पर सड़क को खोद दिया गया है ताकि दोनों गुट एक दूसरे के इलाके में एंटर ना कर पाए। और अगर कोई कोशिश करता है तो हथियारों के दम पर, ये जो आप देख रहे हैं यहाँ पर, उनके दम पर ये लोग उन्हें रोकने की यहाँ पर कोशिश करते हैं। उसी दौरान यहाँ पर फायरिंग भी होती है। आप सोच रहे होंगे कि आखिरकार मैं कहाँ बैठा हूँ और इस बायनोकुलर का इस्तेमाल क्यों कर रहा हूँ, तो आपको मैं समझाता हूँ। दरअसल मैं एक वॉचरूम के अंदर मौजूद हूँ जो कि फ्रंट लाइन पर बनाया गया है। इस वॉचरूम का जो इस्तेमाल है यहाँ पर सामने वाले गुट पर नजर रखने के लिए किया जाता है। और ठीक सामने मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन एक बार आकर तस्वीरें दिखाएं। ठीक सामने जो आप ये हट देख रहे हैं, दरअसल वो सामने वाले गुट का बंकर है। और कभी भी वहां से फायरिंग शुरू कर दी जाती है, अगर वहां से कोई एक्शन होता है तो उस एक्शन का जवाब देने के लिए इस बंकर को यहां पर तैयार किया गया। और सबसे हैरान कर देने वाली चीज मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन अमित बालियान आपको दिखाएं। ठीक ये देखिए किस तरीके से एक्शन का रिएक्शन देने के लिए बाकायदा यहां पर आरपीजी भी लगाई गई है। यह आरपीजी हालांकि स्थानीय लोगों ने खुद अपने हाथों से बनाई है। इसमें पाइप का इस्तेमाल किया गया है, यानी कि ये लोकली मेड आरपीजी है। और ये देखिए तकरीबन 3 फीट लंबी इसकी नाल है और बताया जाता है कि 1.5 किलोमीटर के करीब की इसकी रेंज है। और ये देखिए इसमें जो शेल डाले जाते हैं वो भी इस तरीके से बनाए गए हैं। ये पाइप है लोकल, और पाइप के अंदर यहाँ बारूद भरा गया है। और देखिए किस तरीके से ये जो लोकल मेड ये आरपीजी है, इसका इस्तेमाल यहाँ पर बाकायदा किया जा रहा है। इनका दावा है कि इसका जो इस्तेमाल है इसी ये जो आरपीजी आप देख रहे हैं, इसका इस्तेमाल तब किया जाता है जब सामने वाले गुट की तरफ से फायरिंग शुरू की जाती है। सबसे पहले ये जो आप शेल देख रहे हैं, इन सब का इस्तेमाल किया जाता है। और उसके बाद शुरू होता है यहाँ पर इन हथियारों का इस्तेमाल। ये देखिए डबल बैरल यहाँ पर गन मौजूद है। इसके अलावा ये देखिए यहाँ पर बड़ी संख्या में आपको यहाँ पर ये कारतूस दिखाई देंगे, बुलेट प्रूफ जैकेट आपको यहाँ रखी हुई दिखाई देगी। और इन्हीं हथियारों के दम पर दरअसल ये जो लोग यहाँ मौजूद हैं, जो 24 घंटे ड्यूटी दे रहे हैं, इनका दावा है कि इन्हीं हथियारों के दम पर हम अपनी ज़मीन की रक्षा करने में कामयाब हो पा रहे हैं। वरना जो विरोधी गुट है उसकी कोशिश है कि किसी भी तरीके से इनकी लैंड के अंदर, इनकी ज़मीन के अंदर एंटर करे, यहाँ पर कब्जा करे। और उसके बाद ये देखिए ये जो बंकर है, इसी बंकर में 24 घंटे लोग मौजूद रहते हैं। मैं चाहूँगा कैमरामैन इस बंकर को भी आपको दिखाई। ये देखिए जो बंकर आप देख रहे हैं, दरअसल ये पहले किसी का घर होगा, लेकिन अब फ्रंट लाइन पर इस बंकर को एक तरीके से, इस घर को बंकर के अंदर तब्दील कर दिया गया है। व्हाट इज द रेंज ऑफ दिस आरपीजी?
1.5 kilometer, maximum 1.5 kilometer.
Okay. How managed you to make this?
We are collecting this pipe and all. Then for the pipe we are, pardon, the cost of this.
No. How did you manage to make it?
It takes like maximum 2 weeks and all for making this one.
And what type of material you use this to make this?
First, this one that for a GI pipe and all.
Okay, GI pipe.
Yeah.
तो ये देखिए जीआई पाइप से बनाई गई ये लोकल मेड यहाँ पर आरपीजी आपको लगी हुई दिखाई देगी और इस आरपीजी का जो मुंह है ठीक सामने जो आप देख रहे हैं जो विरोधी गुट का बंकर है उसकी तरफ रखा गया है कि अगर वहां से कोई एक्शन होता है तो उसको रिटेलिएट करने के लिए इस आरपीजी का इस्तेमाल यहां पर किया जाता है। ये वो तस्वीरें हैं जो कि अब तक किसी ने नहीं देखी थी। टीवी9 भारतवर्ष सबसे पहले आपको ये तस्वीरें दिखा रहा है, फ्रंट लाइन की तस्वीरें। हालांकि ये हैरान कर देने वाली तस्वीरें हैं और ये तस्वीरें दरअसल देश को परेशान कर देने वाली भी हैं, क्योंकि ये जो लोग हैं जो 24 घंटे यहां पर मुस्तैद हैं, अलग अलग प्रोफेशन से हैं। कोई वकील है, कोई बिजनेसमैन है, कोई सरकारी नौकरी कर रहा है, लेकिन अपने प्रोफेशन को छोड़कर इनका कहना है कि इनकी मजबूरी है कि ये लोग अपनी जमीन को बचाने के लिए इस तरीके से हथियार हाथों में लेकर फ्रंट लाइन पर 24 घंटे तैनात हैं।
We are also joined by Dr. M. Ramananda Singh, who is Associate Professor, Kerodimal College. Welcome to the show, sir. I'll come back to you come to you in a minute. Rami, if I may first go to you. You know, you have seen the ground report, and you have also seen how the both ethnicities have armed themselves to teeth. You know that they have used local materials to build an RPG with quite a range. And how do you see that this with this digging the trenches, how is it going to make the process of peace more and more difficult? You know, how is the government, or how do you see the government moving forward, if peace is anywhere on the anvil?
Brijesh, the only hope that I have is that this isn't, it means, of course, the violence this time has its own new and unique contours. But this isn't the first time that Manipur has seen violence on ethnic lines. It has happened before, and they have been equally bloody conflicts. And Manipur has sort of succeeded in recovering from that. And of course, it should have never happened and all of that. But the fact is, I still have hope that, the trust deficit, the fault lines can be overcome with time. Of course, it's not going to be easy. And this kind of militarization of villages, of people, is not going to be easy to bring back to normalcy. But, eventually in time, once the emotions come, once dialogue begins, and once people really get tired of this level of just flux in society, I think there will be some hope. Now, I have spoken about this before, that 10 years ago when I used to travel Manipur, there used to be curfews at 4 o'clock. You couldn't travel on the highways, at nightfall. There wasn't any entrepreneurship. There weren't any restaurants, hotels, tourism. It was a very, very conflict-ridden state. And in the last 6 years, we saw certain amount of relative peace come into place, where we saw industry open up, we saw tourism open up, we saw even basic things like the amount of flights that increased, that were direct flights going to Imphal, take shape, that kind of infrastructure take shape. In my opinion, I think that is what people of Manipur are going to want to go back to as soon as possible. And that is, that kind of effort and that kind of memory is going to help them overcome this. Wherein the government is concerned, of course, the state government, people need to hold it accountable for delay in responses or delay in mitigation of this crisis. And I think that will also happen in time. I think that kind of accountability is not going to be forgotten. But in the meanwhile, I think the government has to ensure that there is the rule of law that is re-established in the state once again, whether that is by means of a dialogue, by means of the chief minister taking the kind of steps that we expect him to take, or that is by means of having our security forces do their jobs to the best of their capabilities. Not that they haven't been doing it already. They have had a great role to play, like the gentleman before me also said, there's been, Assam Rifles has communities of both the sides that it has given safe passage to, about 30,000, 40,000 people that they are sheltering even now, but that is where the state government's role will come in to work alongside civil society and the defense forces, because rehabilitation of these people, supporting them to the best of our capabilities in terms of ensuring that they can go back to their homes, because their homes or the environment that they belong to are secure enough. And I think that is going to play a crucial role. As long as there is this sort of displacement, as long as there are incidents of violence, even if there are fewer than there were before, normalcy is going to be very difficult to come by.
Yashowardhan ji, one interesting question is, that the state government, the police and everybody is talking about, that both sides, anybody who has looted the weapon or has the weapon should surrender it and, should deposit with the state or the police or army. But with these, country-made guns and all, with if not with equal efficacy, I think, 50% is still as deadly as things can be. And they are not dependent on, going by what our reporter has shown, they are not dependent on the looted weapons. They are making weapons on their own. So don't you think that this complicates the already bad scenario of thousands of guns out there in the hand of civilians?
Brijesh, let me say at the very outset that this policy of begging that with the snatchers that please लौटा दीजिए ये जो जितने arms आपने लूटे हैं, that was a very, it's a joke actually, that when you have an established system and you are begging the snatchers to return back the arms by putting drop boxes outside the houses of politicians, and the worst part is that even the Director General of Police joined the charade in appealing to the snatchers to return. This is not how the things are done. So the first thing I think it should have been done is to now at least start registering cases. Have a tough IPS officer there who starts registering cases. Some of the weapons came back, Rajesh, after the magazine was empty. So they went and returned the weapons. Now, the second part is even more dangerous. The rifle-propelled grenades and all these which are being used, they are being used from those pipes, GI pipes, and filled in with, those caps with putting things inside, metal scraps and things like that. So, yes, it creates another heightened dimension of this conflict. And you see, if most of these outposts carry this, and which has a range of fairly, as they are saying, plus 1 kilometer, then it's a war zone situation. And that's exactly what I'm saying. I totally appreciate the concerns and the appreciations of the lady who spoke before me, that yes, peace talks must begin. And I have a lot of faith in the ladies of Manipur who played a very, very important role earlier. But my point is you have to create those conditions for peace talks. And that is where I'm pleading for center's intervention. Now, the first thing which you have to do in a situation like this, and we have seen many situations like this, the first thing is you create ground for peace. You have to have a presidential rule which sort of dismisses this government, has an able set of advisors, and takes very firm action in certain areas. I am sure these different warring groups will come to the table once they know that a stable solution, at least in terms of law and order, has been found. So once you do that, you start the crimes against women. You have to get investigative teams from outside, even on state-to-state deputation, to give them justice. Now, the worst part which happened was that even women joined the assaulting group and the mobs. So the situation is so accentuated by this feeling of hatred that unless you have people adhering to the faith, fine, now we have a system which is fair, then only they will lay down the arms. Then only they will stop their violence. And once that is done, I think the Peace Council should come in, the civil society should come in, and we will have the right ground for talks.
Yes, Rami, you wanted to say something.
Yes, I completely agree with what Mr. Azad says. Of course, that is one way of looking at it. But, for argument's sake, the other way of looking at it also is, and this we must take into consideration, is that a lot of the weapons that were looted were old weapons. They were rusted weapons. They were double-barreled weapons. They weren't the kind of sophisticated weapons that we are seeing at this point. So there is obviously this angle that is coming to the fore of international agencies or support coming from elsewhere. Now, in my opinion, that makes for a longer case as well to bring peace back into the state, because these are obviously, as we've discussed before, these are porous borders, and, it is very difficult to man them just by the fact that, they're densely forested and they're difficult terrains. So this is exactly the reason I feel that civil society and dialogue will have a really important role, because at the end of the day, I don't think the Kukis or the Meiteis, by any stretch of imagination are against the nation, there is a conflict, but I think certain vested interests in these groups or insurgent groups that are taking some sort of tactical or, even psychological support from groups from across the border don't realize the larger this on the country, and therefore this is when civil society on the borders play a very big role to be able to even bring these weapons back. Who is going to identify who holds these weapons? Of course, like I said, the security spectrum has a big role to play in this, but we have to rest some responsibility on civil society as well. Like I've taken the example of NLFT in Tripura or the Jamaatiyas on the borders of Bangladesh, who single-handedly refused to shelter or to be scared of any of the insurgents that were using their passage of way, and therefore were very responsible in breaking the back of insurgency in these states. Or the Kachin women who became informers, or not even sort of formal informers, but ensured that they informed any sort of trafficking, any sort of passage of way, or any sort of shelter any other villager within their community was offering to these armed militants. And I think that is the role that civil society will have to also play to ensure that peace comes back. And that is my limited comment in addition to what Mr. Azad said.
But Rami, one thing which is pretty much evident, after every passing day, there is hardening of position. Be it Kuki or a Meitei, you see that there is a complete hardening of position. Nobody is willing to cede an inch, come what may. And how do you see then, the role of the civil society? It has been completely absent. We talk about role of women and all, but certain pictures, certain visuals which came out where women were seen egging on to commit certain things. It was heartbreaking. So I mean, you seriously think that that civil society still has a role to play, or you think they will come long after the scenario?
Absolutely, Brijesh. I obviously share your sentiment on this. It was very heartbreaking for me because I find women of the Northeast really an example to women in the rest of the country. They've always been at the forefront of making decisions and implementing those decisions. Having said that, losing hope in our civil society would be losing hope completely. If we cannot trust the better judgment and the humanity of people, in Manipur, if we are going to look at them from the lens of just those segments of societies who are indulging in this sort of violence, I think we will lose the case before we even start to find solutions for it. So as much as I agree with you that there was a hardening of stance, I also must say that, over a period of time, the same people who were unwilling to come on the table for dialogue, the same people who said, we want a solution before peace, today are so tired of the implications of this conflict that we are slowly starting to hear voices saying, okay, yes, let's get into dialogue and let's slowly see where we can find a solution and, have maybe it isn't by volition, maybe it is just by the sheer impact of the environment that they've had to endure, that they are saying, okay, we'll find a solution, but let's at least start talking. So, we must not marginalize the few voices that are coming up, and we must encourage them and we must give them focus, because what people don't realize right now, Brijesh, is as much as, leading your community with a weapon against the other community may make you feel like a hero. The fact is, if voices were to come up who were really able to bridge the gap between these two communities, they would be remembered in history as the real heroes of Manipur. And I think those are the voices that we should be covering now.
Okay, Dr. Raman Singh, I'll come to you in a minute. Thank you so much for patiently waiting out. Yes, Mr. Azad, you are raising your hand.
Yes, a very limited point I just wanted to make. You see, I am all for the civil society groups for talks. In fact, I have great faith that ultimately it will be the peace councils, the civil society, and the various tribal groups, the elders, who will go in for this peace. My problem is that, you see, when the peace councils were created earlier, some of them resigned out of fear, and some of them out of ethnic loyalties because they wanted to become heroes. So now what has happened is that it's so divided. I'm not saying that don't allow civil society to. Definitely, I agree with Ramiji that this is a very important point. What I'm saying, while the law and order situation is being taken care of, encourage the civil society, encourage the various groups, encourage the women to get into talks. After all, I tell you, there have been heroic incidents of kukis saving meiteis in the hills, and meiteis saving kukis in Imphal proper. And these incidents are so heartwarming to me. Humanity still survives. And I think this is a great lesson for all of us, that amidst this carnage, amidst this divide, there are still people who want to live together peacefully. And in that, I fully agree with Ramit. Thanks.
Okay, Dr. Ramananda, you saw the ground report which has been done by a colleague there in Manipur. Visited Imphal, has visited Churachandpur, another area, as much as possible. For him, and one thing is very clear, which is emerging out there, Dr. Singh, is that there's proper barricading, there's proper a divide of line where only cookies can venture in this side or Meiteis can go this side. Is this the new normal in Manipur, sir?
Brijesh, this is what the situations is in the Manipur. Is day by day the things have changed in different directions. It was initially thought that it should be continue for some month or a day, but day by day the situations are when uncontrolled. Then situation went in different directions. Now here I just wanted to point out a few things which the role of the governments to take care of such kind of the conflict is questionable now. Now whenever the ethnic conflicts comes up, you have to make your intelligence active and try to analyze what is the reason for it, and why it is how do we control. We have to make some kind of strategy in maybe in short terms or maybe long term range. The government intervention is so weak, and I would say government lost in the midst of this conflict in any kind of the strategy they make. How after having more than 60,000 force, including your state force, why it's still things are changing in different directions? It is not decreasing in terms of the violence is going on. It is increasing rather. Now you have seen that there is a bunkers in the both side, and there is a line of control over there in many places, not only one places, in every part of the district and every part of the foothills. There is a line of control there, where the people have segregated more and more. So that kind of issues currently facing, and let me tell you what we are talking about, the looting weapons here. There are as I do agree with what Rami has said, the many of the weapons are not workable. It's not working at the moment. But the point here is involvement of different types of sophisticated weapons, and the supply of the bullet supply of those weapons, that is the questionable. Why the government is not looking at that angles? People are saying every day that there is a external involvement in terms of this conflict, but government is denying. Assam Rifles are denying. No, there is no conflict, there is nothing. But there are the weapons, you can see. You are showing some local weapon here, but
Yes.
how this bullet has been made? You can make the sample of the weapon, but you can make how can you make a bullet of those snipers? What kind of chemical you are using? From where it is coming? Nobody is asking the questions. Now,
Yes.
next point: how many time Indian government and Manipur government visit the Sukem in last three months? In this last 3 months, and your first visit in the month of June, where you say only 58% of the cadre was present, it amounts to, you are considering that this is total amount which you are presenting here. Your true cadre is already out. It is in the foothills. You are not questioning to the government. You are not questioning and government role. Government said nothing is happening. So these kind of, the careless, these kind of loose observation of the law and security has made people worried. Let me tell you, when we talk about the civil societies are demanding for what? Civil society are demanding for integrity of the Manipur, which government has to defend themselves. Government need to defend their positions. Government need to defend the integrity of Manipur. It is not a duty of the civil society. Why the civil societies are coming out? Because civil society thought that governments are not doing enough. That's why they are coming out. And let me tell you, it is not the civil society who are participating in illegal activities. I am telling you, the civil society in the valley, even the civil society in the hill, they are against any kind of violence. But what the government is doing, that is the question.
Yeah, I agree, Dr. Raman Singh. I'll come to you in a bit. We have also been joined by Suhas Chakma as the Director, Right and Risk Analysis Group. Yes, Mr. Chakma, you were raising your hand to make a point.
No, who is the authority to certify that the weapons are rusted? I mean, I had this conversation earlier also. I mean, has the state government of Manipur or the Manipur police, have they made a statement saying that the weapons which were looted, rusted, how many are workable and how many are not workable? What are we at this point of time discussing about? We are discussing about the responsibility of the state. The responsibility of the state is governed by the Constitution of India. Now, if the responsibility of state is to be equivalent of the armed groups who are in any case outlawed, declared as terrorist organizations under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act, then what are we left with? I think the problem in this conflict has been the way the narratives are being sought to be made just to justify either the inaction of the government or a particular point of view. See, under the Constitution of India and under international law, there is a difference between the state and non-state actors. So that's why I'm saying, if there are weapons coming up from Myanmar and etc., these are allegations. These can be proven, may not be proven. But what is proven is the fact that the arms we are looted from the security forces, purportedly looted, distributed, whatever. So if we don't make a distinction between what is the responsibility of the state and what's the non-state actors, I don't think there is anything left to discuss. And the other day also I have heard about these trusted weapons. I at least have not seen any official statement of Manipur police or the government of Manipur saying that the weapons are rusted. So if the weapons are rusted, does that mean that they can be snatched away from the security forces? Under what provisions of the law? We are talking about law. Even if there is a conflict, what is this conflict about? If there is a killing from either this side or that side, that's violation of rights, somebody's right to life, somebody's safety, somebody's liberty, somebody's security. Each and everything we discuss within the framework of the laws defined by the constitutions of different laws. So there is no classification, something called rusted weapons, as if these rusted weapons can be distributed. No, I mean, I think that's a very unfortunate description of the events which have been taking place. One may belong to a particular party, community, but one cannot justify what is legal and what is illegal. You cannot justify illegal things. Kuki armed opposition groups are not equivalent of the Manipur police. Manipur police exercise the sovereign power of the state because they are part of the state administration. And their responsibility also includes to crack down anybody, including the kuki armed groups. Kuki armed groups are not given any powers by the constitution. So that's what I think we have to make a distinction, even in a riot situation. And because we do not make a distinction, it amounts to justifying even the illegal acts which are committed in the process by the authorities, by the agencies, by the persons who are supposed to uphold the rule of law. And that has been missing. And that is the root cause of the problem. Because nobody is upholding the rule of law and nobody speaks about the primacy of the rule of law.
Dr. Ramanand Singh, he has raised a valid question. We are talking about rustic weapons. We are talking about weapons which are not in use, or we are talking about weapons, which cannot have the kind of effect or impact which we are seeing. Who has the police or the military or any authority made a statement that these many weapons are in a condition which cannot be used effectively?
See, the point here is whatever the weapons looted should be collected. With the department can do. That is only the police or army person, the uniform person should do. And that kind of process, I am not talking about how many are not. That they will have a record on that. And you can see in all this conflict, you will find that so many long, that means more than 3 months, from where these guns, it's not only the looted guns we are talking about. There are more guns in circulation. From where it is coming from where this bullet come from. That question is not only the questions of looting the guns which are used in the conflict. It's much more than that. That is the main questions on it. Government has to do this exercise first before any peace talk. Without disarming all these weapons, all these communities, you can't go for any kind of dialogue or any kind of peaceful talk. People have guns. You have to identify what your securities are doing, what your agencies are doing. These kind of weapons, how these weapons come from, where this weapon come from, where is their the station for storing these kind of the guns. That need to be cracked down by the government agency. That is the question we are talking about.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, Mr. Sharma.
No, I think we are again lost on the entire issue. You do not collect guns which are looted. You seize them. You make an inventory. Those people who have deposited the arms. No.
Dr. Singh, I'll come to you.
The one who are used in the conflict. How you are ensuring that only the gun which are looted in the looted from the police stations are used in the conflict? How can you ensure that? That is the question.
See, first of all, when certain weapons are snatched from the security forces, it becomes an offense under the Arms Act. It becomes an offense under the Indian Penal Code. So the government doesn't collect as gift that you come and deposit. Somebody who comes and deposits the arms, necessary proceedings under the Criminal Procedure Code for the offences committed has to be initiated. So therefore, the whole concept of collection of guns in a way justifies or condones the first act of snatching the guns, which itself is illegal. Its use subsequently is a difference. The first act of snatching the guns is a serious criminal offense against the state. And as I said, under the Penal Code as well as the Arms Act. Now the question is, where are the arms are coming from? We have to be realistic and we have to know what is Manipur. In Manipur, there are 3 sets of armed groups. Every community has an armed group, but the major armed groups, they belong to the Nagas, they belong to the Kukis, and they belong to the Meiteis. And Meitei armed groups include UNLF, KYKL, RPF, etc. Kuki armed groups are in suspension of operation. Of course, they have not been living in the camps. So the government has certain accounts of how many arms and ammunition or how many kedars are there. The NSCN and all other Naga groups are also in ceasefire with the government of India. But there are meitei armed groups which are not in talks with the government of India. They have not signed any agreement, but they are as active as any other armed groups. So just to say that, where the weapons and the bullets and guns are coming from, in Manipur, of course, everybody has it because there are so many armed groups. So let us not point out that these are the only group who have to be disarmed. Now, if we want to talk about, say, peace process as a precondition that people have to be disarmed, fantastic. It should be done immediately if possible. Now, if you disarm the only kuki armed groups because they are in suspension of operation, does it mean we leave the groups which are not in talks with the government of India, which will include the meitei insurgent groups? Why would the kukis come to peace process when the meitei armed groups themselves remain outside the ambit if they do not come? So I do not think if you want to have a peace process in Manipur, you can have this kind of precondition. You cannot have a precondition saying that, the union territory should be given to us. The autonomous council should be strengthened first. The scheduled tribe status to the meiteis have to be given. These are outcome of, at the end of the process, may come, may not come. At this point of time, what is needed is a genuine peace process. A genuine peace process, I would say, if they were to begin, it should have begun with the BJP. Why BJP? The BJP at least should have shown that its own MLS between the kukis and the meitei groups, they are in talking terms. So why cannot BJP organize a meeting, not Imphal, in Delhi, where this BJP MLS belonging to the kuki community and meitei communities have at least one-to-one talk, not necessarily to establish peace, but to meet across, so that people can see visibly that there are efforts by the leaders, to establish peace. Not the substance, not the contents, even physical meeting. So at this point of time, that is not taking place. I have seen and I have followed all the conflicts in Northeast India, and I have seen each and every riot since 1990, and I visited them, whether in Assam, in Bodoland area, either in between the Garos and the Rabas, or entire conflict in Karbi Anglong and Dimasa Hills and etc. There is not a conflict which I have not been visited. So what I would say is that what government of India has done with respect to, say, for example, how the Naga peace process was not moving ahead, what did the government of India do? The government of India put one flight load of the Naga traditional leaders belonging to the Naga, Hoko and other civil society groups. They were taken to Bangkok. There was a huge discussion among themselves as well as with the NSA and IM before Muiba actually returned here. So what could you do? Today you can create a situation, if you are serious, that there are civil society groups belonging to both the communities. There is no space, possibly there is no security to discuss in Manipur. You could take them out. You could hold the talks in Kolkata, you could hold the talks in Guwahati, in Delhi, wherever. So what I am worried about is there is no visible effort, not a single visible effort where people could see that there are talks which are taking place. Talks are taking place, but they are behind the back. But this is not evoking any kind of confidence. So there are talks with the kuki groups, which is being held by the director of the IB and the officials of the Ministry of Home Affairs. Fantastic. There are talks which are being held by the BJP and the RSS with the meitei groups. But at certain stage, now we have about to come to the 90 days of the conflict. You should at least have people, both the political party leaders, come across and discuss this. We have to be realistic. Let's not try to put the blame on either side. It doesn't help.
Okay, I'll go to Dr. Ramanand Singh. He wanted to, he has raised his hand to make a point, and then I'll show all the three ground reports which have been done by our correspondent who is at ground zero in the state of Manipur. Yes, Dr. Singh.
Basically, what Sir has said is, for any kind of the peace, the disarm of both the group is very, very important, very, very essential. What I am talking about is, even if the shoe, under the shoe, their arms are not used in any way of this, conflict, it is not ensured. So therefore, it's a government duty to ensure, they follow the ground rules and they strictly follow the ground rules. So that is very, very important to, discuss it, because there is a fear. There is a fear among the valley. I'm telling you that among the valley, where these shoes are misused by the militant or the outfit groups under the Sioux communities, because they have all the weapons, they have all the equipments there only. In the valley, wherever you are using, you will find only those weapons which are, we got information that they have been looted from the police station. So that point is very, very clear. So one thing is very important. Yes, absolutely, there should be a disarm. The illegal weapons should be collected, and it should be, case should be registered against them. But in side by side, you have to also strictly impose the law under the issue also. If you violate any kind of the agreement under any section, the government of India and the army should act on them. That will justify the everything. If you are protecting under the shoe and can do anything, you can fire anywhere, you can use any weapons of those natures and sophisticated weapons, and that should not fill, and that should not be done in this conflict. That is very important, because that will increase the more tension and more confusion and more anger among the communities. That is very, very important to note down.
Okay,
Yes.
I'll come to you, Dr. Suhash, but first let's play the ground report which has been done by our correspondent. He's there. He has visited Imphal, he has visited Chura Chandpur and several other areas. He has done ground reports. Let's listen to it and then I'll come back to you.
आप सोच रहे होंगे कि आखिरकार मैं कहां बैठा हूं और इस बायनोकुलर का इस्तेमाल क्यों कर रहा हूं, तो आपको मैं समझाता हूं। दरअसल मैं एक वॉचरूम के अंदर मौजूद हूं जो कि फ्रंट लाइन पर बनाया गया है। इस वॉचरूम का जो इस्तेमाल है यहां पर सामने वाले गुट पर नजर रखने के लिए किया जाता है, और ठीक सामने, मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन एक बार आकर तस्वीरें दिखाएं, ठीक सामने जो आप ये हट देख रहे हैं, दरअसल वो सामने वाले गुट का बंकर है, और कभी भी वहां से फायरिंग शुरू कर दी जाती है। अगर वहां से कोई एक्शन होता है तो उस एक्शन का जवाब देने के लिए इस बंकर को यहां पर तैयार किया गया। और सबसे हैरान कर देने वाली चीज मैं चाहूंगा कैमरामैन अमित बालियान आपको दिखाएं। ठीक, ये देखिए किस तरीके से एक्शन का रिएक्शन देने के लिए बाकायदा यहां पर आरपीजी भी लगाई गई है। यह आरपीजी हालांकि स्थानीय लोगों ने खुद अपने हाथों से बनाई है। इसमें पाइप का इस्तेमाल किया गया, यानी कि ये लोकली मेड आरपीजी है। और ये देखिए तकरीबन 3 फीट लंबी इसकी नाल है, और बताया जाता है कि 1.5 किलोमीटर के करीब की इसकी रेंज है। और ये देखिए इसमें जो शेल डाले जाते हैं वो भी इस तरीके से बनाए गए हैं। ये पाइप है लोकल, और पाइप के अंदर यहाँ बारूद भरा गया है। और देखिए किस तरीके से ये जो लोकल मेड ये आरपीजी है, इसका इस्तेमाल यहाँ पर बाकायदा किया जा रहा है। इनका दावा है कि इसका जो इस्तेमाल है ये जो आरपीजी आप देख रहे हैं, इसका इस्तेमाल तब किया जाता है जब सामने वाले गुट की तरफ से फायरिंग शुरू की जाती है। सबसे पहले ये जो आप शेल देख रहे हैं, इन सब का इस्तेमाल किया जाता है, और उसके बाद शुरू होता है यहाँ पर इन हथियारों का इस्तेमाल। ये देखिए डबल बैरल यहाँ पर गन मौजूद है। इसके अलावा ये देखिए यहाँ पर बड़ी संख्या में आपको यहाँ पर ये कारतूस दिखाई देंगे, बुलेट प्रूफ जैकेट आपको यहाँ रखी हुई दिखाई देगी। और इन्हीं हथियारों के दम पर दरअसल ये जो लोग यहाँ मौजूद हैं, जो 24 घंटे ड्यूटी दे रहे हैं, इनका दावा है कि इन्हीं हथियारों के दम पर हम अपनी ज़मीन की रक्षा करने में कामयाब हो पा रहे हैं। वरना जो विरोधी गुट है उसकी कोशिश है कि किसी भी तरीके से इनकी लैंड के अंदर, इनकी ज़मीन के अंदर एंटर करे, यहाँ पर कब्जा करे। और उसके बाद ये देखिए ये जो बंकर है, इसी बंकर में 24 घंटे लोग मौजूद रहते हैं। मैं चाहूँगा कैमरामैन इस बंकर को भी आपको दिखाई। ये देखिए जो बंकर आप देख रहे हैं, दरअसल ये पहले किसी का घर होगा, लेकिन अब फ्रंट लाइन पर इस बंकर को एक तरीके से, इस घर को बंकर के अंदर तब्दील कर दिया गया है। व्हाट इज द रेंज ऑफ दिस आरपीजी?
1.5 kilometer, maximum 1.5 kilometer.
Okay. How managed you to make this?
We are collecting this pipe and all. Then for the pipe we are pardon. The cost of this?
No. How did you manage to make it?
It takes like maximum 2 weeks and all for making this one.
And what type of material you use this to make this?
First, this one that for a GI pipe and all.
Okay, GI pipe.
Yeah.
तो तो ये देखिए जीआई पाइप से बनाई गई ये लोकल मेड यहाँ पर आरपीजी आपको लगी हुई दिखाई देगी और इस आरपीजी का जो मुंह है ठीक सामने जो आप देख रहे हैं जो विरोधी गुट का बंकर है उसकी तरफ रखा गया है कि अगर वहां से कोई एक्शन होता है तो उसको रिटेलिएट करने के लिए इस आरपीजी का इस्तेमाल यहां पर किया जाता है। ये वो तस्वीरें हैं जो कि अब तक किसी ने नहीं देखी थी। टीवी9 भारतवर्ष सबसे पहले आपको ये तस्वीरें दिखा रहा है, फ्रंट लाइन की तस्वीरें। हालांकि ये हैरान कर देने वाली तस्वीरें हैं और ये तस्वीरें दरअसल देश को परेशान कर देने वाली भी हैं, क्योंकि ये जो लोग हैं जो 24 घंटे यहां पर मुस्तैद हैं, अलग अलग प्रोफेशन से हैं। कोई वकील है, कोई बिजनेसमैन है, कोई सरकारी नौकरी कर रहा है, लेकिन अपने प्रोफेशन को छोड़कर इनका कहना है कि इनकी मजबूरी है कि ये लोग अपनी जमीन को बचाने के लिए इस तरीके से हथियार हाथों में लेकर फ्रंट लाइन पर 24 घंटे तैनात हैं। तकरीबन 40 मिनट पहाड़ों में चलने के बाद इस वक्त हम एक और पोस्ट पर पहुंचे और ये देखें, मैं दिखाना चाहूंगा आपको पोस्ट। इस पोस्ट के ऊपर भी वॉलंटियर्स मौजूद हैं जो कि 24 घंटे यहां पर ठीक हथियारों के साथ ड्यूटी देते हुए दिखाई दे रहे हैं। और तस्वीरें आप देखिए, तमाम तरीके के जो वेपन्स हैं यहाँ पर इन्होंने अपनी सुरक्षा के लिए, अपनी ज़मीन को बचाने के लिए यहाँ पर रखे हुए हैं। आप ये देखिए किस तरीके से सिंगल बैरल यहाँ पर रखी हुई है। इसके अलावा ये देखिए अपनी ज़मीन को बचाने के लिए किस तरीके से 24 घंटे ये सामने नज़र रखते हैं। ठीक सामने आप ये पहाड़ी देख रहे हैं, ये वो पहाड़ी है जहाँ से फायरिंग होती है और ठीक ये सामने देखिए बंकर यहाँ पर बनाया गया है, तमाम वेपन यहाँ पर, लाइव कार्टेजेस। इसके अलावा ये देखिए यहाँ पर बाकायदा यहाँ पर ये दूरबीन भी रखी गई है और इसी दूरबीन की मदद से देखा जाता है कि आखिरकार ये फायरिंग हो किधर की तरफ से रही है और उसके बाद उस फायरिंग का ये लोग जवाबी कार्रवाई उसको रिटेलिएट ये लोग करते हैं। और तस्वीरें आप देख सकते हैं किस तरीके से ये जो बंकर है, दरअसल ये जो स्थानीय लोग हैं उन्होंने अपने बंकर यहाँ पर बनाए हुए हैं और बंकर के अंदर देखिए किस तरीके से यहाँ पर बाकायदा टॉर्च यहाँ पर आपको दिखाई देगी, यहाँ पर आपको लाइव कार्टेजेस दिखाई देंगे, यहाँ पर सिंगल बैरल जो बंदूकें हैं वो यहाँ पर दिखाई देंगी। और ये देखिए किस तरीके से वेपन्स यहाँ पर इन्होंने लिए हुए हैं। बाय प्रोफेशन आप क्या है?
Sound engineer, sir. Around 2 months. From the conflict, they are already here. It's a Renkai village volunteer. They have been here for the past 2 months.
You are a businessman?
Yes, I am an entrepreneur.
Okay.
This is my own product.
What was your business?
I manufacture juice plus I own a bottling company.
Then why are you here?
I am here because I need to protect my land. I need to live my business.
तो आप देखिए अपनी जमीन को बचाने के लिए, क्योंकि अब दरअसल दोनों गुट आमने सामने हैं और एक दूसरे की जमीन को कब्जाने की जो जंग है वो यहां पर शुरू हो गई है और उसके बाद इस जंग को बिना हथियारों के ये लोग नहीं जीत सकते। और ये देखिए यही वजह है कि वॉकी टॉकी इसके अलावा वेपन्स के साथ यहां पर ये ठीक ये देखिए ये बंकर है और इसी बंकर के अंदर 24 घंटे ये लोग यहाँ मौजूद रहते हैं। और ठीक इसी बंकर में यहाँ पर बैठकर ठीक सामने जो आप ये पहाड़ी देख रहे हैं, इसी पहाड़ी की तरफ इनकी 24 घंटे नजर होती है, जहां से कभी भी इनके ऊपर फायरिंग शुरू हो जाती है और उसके बाद इन्हीं बंदूकों की मदद से ये लोग विरोधी गुट को जवाब दे पाते हैं। तो देखिए चारों तरफ आपको यहाँ पर वेपन्स दिखाई देंगे, ये देखिए आपको यहाँ पर जो लाइव कार्टेजेस हैं वो यहाँ पर दिखाई देंगे रखे हुए और इन्हीं की मदद से ये लोग अपनी जमीन को बचाने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, ऐसा इनका कहना है। फ्रंट लाइन की तरफ बढ़ते हुए पहाड़ों के ठीक बीचों बीच इसी रास्ते पर हमें एक पोस्ट दिखाई दी और ये देखिए पोस्ट पर यहाँ पर तमाम जो वॉलंटियर्स हैं वो यहाँ पर मौजूद हैं, 24 घंटे यहाँ पर ड्यूटी दे रहे हैं ताकि जो विरोधी गुट है वो अंदर एंटर ना कर पाए। जानने की कोशिश करते कि आखिरकार इस पोस्ट की जरूरत क्यों पड़ी। नाम क्या है?
मेरा नाम सैमुअल है।
मैं कहाँ के रहने वाले हैं आप? इसी इलाके के रहने वाले?
मैं इसी इलाके का रहने वाला तो नहीं हूँ, फिर भी दूसरे गांव से आया हूँ मैं।
अच्छा, किस लिए आप लोग यहाँ?
सिर्फ और सिर्फ अपने ज़मीन को प्रोटेक्ट करने के लिए आए हैं हम लोग, ना ही हमें उनका ज़मीन चाहिए। सिर्फ और सिर्फ हमारा जो भी गांव जलाया गया है वो हम लोग वापस लेना चाहते हैं और जितना भी गांव हम इन्होंने जलाया बस हमें वो वापस कर दीजिएगा और जितना भी इम्फाल वैली में आप लोगों ने जलाया वो आप रख लीजिएगा। हम अपने गांव से सहमत है, उनको अपना इम्फाल वैली चाहिए, उनको रहने दीजिएगा।
अच्छा, आप बाय प्रोफेशन क्या है, आप क्या करते हैं?
बाय प्रोफेशन तो मैं एडवोकेट हूँ, फिर भी हमारे लोगों को वॉलंटियर्स चाहिए था, इसलिए हमने पार्टिसिपेट किया इस चीज़ के लिए।
तो यहाँ पर भी फायरिंग वगैरह होती है?
यहाँ पे भी फायरिंग हुआ था पिछली बार, अगर आपको लोगों को पता होगा तो डेविड की हत्या जो बहुत ही बेरहमी से मारा गया था, उससे उसका गला काटा गया था। उस दिन के बाद से यहाँ पे फायरिंग हुआ था, फिर अभी 1 सप्ताह हो गया अभी फायरिंग नहीं हुई इस जगह पे।
आप लोग 24 घंटे इस पोस्ट पर रहते हैं?
ऐसा है कि हमारा रोटेशन सिस्टम चलता है, मान के चलिए 5-5 घंटा 2-2 ग्रुप वहाँ पे बैठते हैं, उसके बाद फिर हमारे अपने आप चेंज होते रहते हैं।
कुछ लोग इन्हें अलग-अलग भाषा में कहते हैं। बताइए क्या लगता है आपको कब तक ये नॉर्मल हो पाएगा?
देखिए अभी तो सरकार के ऊपर है, सेंटर अभी बात कर रहे हैं अभी हमारे लोग से भी, फिर भी हम ये चाहते थे कि अगर हमारे देश के प्रधानमंत्री जी मोदी जी कुछ बोले, अभी तक उन्होंने कुछ बोला नहीं, ये कहा गया है, ये हमें बहुत दुख लगता है। फिर भी अगर सेंटर अगर कुछ कर सकती है तो जल्द से जल्द करना चाहिए। सबसे बड़ी डिमांड तो हमारी थी कि राष्ट्रपति शासन लाना चाहिए था यहाँ पे, बट यहाँ के मुख्यमंत्री ने रिजाइन करने से मना किया है। ये चीज़ को लेके सेंटर से हमें बहुत दुख है ये बात को लेके।
अच्छा ये बताइए इस पोस्ट की जरूरत क्यों पड़ी? क्या यहाँ पर लोगों को चेक करते हैं आप लोग? कैसे क्या काम करते हैं?
देखिए मेनली क्या होता है कि हर जगह लोग आना चाहते हैं इस तरफ भी। हम लोग सिर्फ अपने मीडिया लोगों को और अपने वॉलंटियर्स लोगों को और आर्मी और असम राइफल को हम यहाँ पे जाने देते हैं, और वैसे सिविलियन लोगों को अलाउड नहीं है, पर कोई कुछ काम होगा तो हम लोग अलाउ कर देते हैं।
आप लोग एंट्री वगैरह भी करते हैं रजिस्टर के अंदर?
हाँ, अगर जो भी मान के चलिए यहाँ के गांव के रहने वाले लोग हैं उनको आना है तो वो आ सकते हैं, कोई दिक्कत नहीं है उसके ऊपर।
तो बिल्कुल ये देखिए ये ठीक पहाड़ों के बीचों बीच आप ये पोस्ट बनी देखेंगे, और इस पोस्ट पर वॉलंटियर्स जो है वो 24 घंटे यहाँ पर तैनात रहते हैं। बाकायदा इस पोस्ट से गुजरने वालों की सबके नाम नंबर यहाँ पर रजिस्टर के अंदर लिखे भी जाते हैं। और दरअसल यहीं से कुछ दूरी पर जब आप आगे जाएंगे तो एक डेविड नाम के शख्स की बड़ी बेरहमी से हत्या की गई थी। उसकी गर्दन को धड़ से अलग कर दिया गया था, और उसके बाद उसी गाँव के अंदर उसके धड़ को घुमाया गया हाथ में लेकर, और फिर ठीक उसके घर के सामने उसे दीवार के ऊपर टांग दिया गया था। तो दरअसल ये जो विरोधी गुट था वो इस गुट के अंदर अपनी एक दहशत कायम करना चाहता था, और उसी को लेकर इस हत्या को बेहद बर्बरता से अंजाम दिया गया। और अब ये देखिए किस तरीके से जो तमाम इस वक्त यहाँ पर वॉलंटियर्स हैं वो यहाँ पर मौजूद हैं। 24 घंटे वॉकी टॉकी के साथ ये लोग यहाँ पर मौजूद रहते हैं। तो आप तस्वीरें देख सकते हैं किस तरीके से जो वॉलंटियर्स हैं वो ठीक इस पोस्ट के ऊपर मौजूद हैं, और इसी तरीके से 24 घंटे अपनी ड्यूटी को यहाँ पर अंजाम देते हुए देखे जा सकते हैं।
Shri Amit Shah has said it on the floor of the House that he is ready for a discussion. He is the minister in charge of internal security. It is absolutely appalling why the opposition doesn't want the truth regarding the Manipur crisis, as they so call it, to come to the fore. We reiterate our request as BJP members that the opposition allow a discussion as has been enunciated by Shri Amit Shah.
Mr. Suhas Chakma, you saw the report, and you know one of the three things which stood out was, I mean, you know, we are discussing about weapons, we are discussing about weapons looted or weapons given, the quality of the weapons. But the country-made weapons, the improvisation is also pretty much on display there. You know, the RPGs with a range of 1.5 kilometers being assembled by people. I mean, do they really need to loot the guns with the kind of wherewithal that is available there? You know, the bullets have been found. What do you have to say about this aspect of the war?
See, you know, I mean, people are fully armed. In any armed conflict situation, it is not possible fast to disarm. Any government which states or anybody who states say that, you know, I mean, fast disarmament has to take place, it shall never take place. It doesn't work out in that manner. So that way the arms of the state could be used for fomenting the conflict which is already there. So I am just trying to highlight the people who have been saying that there are still weapons and etc. That look, you know, don't justify the looting of the arms, saying that they are rusted, they cannot be used. It's a disservice. It's such a disservice to the entire problem or the suffering of the people. Now, on the ground situation, what we are not realizing and people are not taking into consideration is that now you have seen this interview from the hills, and it was very clear. He said, we only allow the Assam Rifles, we only allow the Central Security Forces, we only allow the journalists and etc. or the verified, villagers. Now, if a country is governed by the rule of law, if any government which has any self-respect, can they allow this kind of, security checkpost by citizens, by people holding arms to remain in place? Obviously not. So what does it indicate? it indicates that Manipur is a failed state. The
how do you explain these vigilantes or these groups to say openly that, we only allow, the important word is allow Indian Army, Assam Rifles and journalists to go through? Who are they? And they are all armed to teeth with sophisticated weapons.
So that is why I am saying it's not only in the hills, it takes place in the valley, people coming from the hills, their IDs are checked and etc. So we are dealing with a situation where the edifice of this structure doesn't exist. I don't think anybody beyond his office or beyond those who are dependent on him, anybody listens to Chief Minister. And of course, the Home Minister and the Prime Minister of the country could not be, they couldn't care less about this. They don't care about it. So Manipur has been left basically, the people of Manipur have been basically left to fend themselves, and you cannot bring a solution. Now, if you look at this, what was the point from the hillside? The point from the hillside that our leaders are talking, which basically means the talks for some kind of autonomy, some kind of union territory, this, that, which previous speaker had said, integrity of the Manipur has to be ensured. And on the other hand, you do not want the scheduled tribes status to be given to the meitei and etc. So in the entire conflict, if you look at it, there is not a single effort to, first of all, establish normalcy. What Manipur needs, and I have been saying from the beginning, Manipur needs, not because Biren Singh is not incompetent or Biren Singh has failed, etc. Keep all those things aside. But the fact that, Manipur had been having ethnic violence for the last 3 months because of the division, because of the separation, because of the ethnic cleansing for both sides, you need somebody, neutral authority, who will govern the state so that both sides can have some kind of confidence. Then let normalcy return. Then you can discuss whatever demand it is, whether it's scheduled tribe status or more autonomy and etc. Those are things which you can talk till the cows come home, and you are not possibly even going to find solution. And I had said many times that meitei shall never be the STs, because if you give the ST status to the meitei, the entire hills, including the Naga hills, will burn. And if you give any kind of autonomy to the Kukis, Nagas will protest, meitei will protest, then that itself also will result into burning of the whole state. So what is needed? What is needed is a basic steps to restore the security, trust among the people. That is not being facilitated, and your trust among, in that sense, is not very different from Punjab. People are in a way very straightforward. They will take you for granted, and they are believing whatever your promises you are making. And if you are not able to deliver those promises, then they will hold a grudge for a long point of time, and that's why this conflict starts in any case. So I think the idea of the Ministry of Home Affairs, the Government of India, that it will resolve on its own. Sorry, you have not understood the conflict. The fact that despite some kind of ceasefire and other processes, you have not been able to resolve any of the conflicts in Manipur. It shows how difficult they are. So you just want to, delay, chalne do, people will forget about it. And that attitude for a country of 140 crore people, that you cannot take care of, some lakhs of population in the state, it's very unfortunate. And what's the point of having so many security forces? You could go destroy all the bunkers and deploy the security forces. You do that for 3 months period of time, everybody will feel secure. You are not doing anything to build the confidence.
A couple of very valid points made, Mr. Chakma. Dr. Singh, you saw that video which has been ground report which has been done by our correspondent there. Two things very interestingly pop out. We've till now, we've spoken about arms looted, illegal arms supply and all, and about, about whether you trust the Indian Army or you don't trust the Indian Army, the kind of, the way they have to function in the area. One was how this country-made weapon was made, an effective range of 1.5 kilometer. The second was that most of these, all of those who were present there in the video, and I'm not saying that only because our correspondent shows this in Chura Chandpur, it's not existing in Valley and all. They were armed to teeth. And them saying that we only allow Indian Army or the Assam Rifles or the journalists to go through. I mean, isn't that a big question mark on the state's capability to disarm them? Or the word disarmament. I'm sorry, just take 10 more seconds. Or the worst word disarmament is just a joke in Manipur.
Yeah, this is what I have already have discussed with some of the intelligent expert in the previous show in your TV show and news shows. This is exactly what is surprise to me. How the who is now right now the guarding the integrity of the Manipur and whole lane of the Manipur? Where is the law and order? Now you are saying that the villagers are saying that they allow only the Assam Rifles. Now the big question is that the valley people are asking the same questions. Why the Assam Rifles are defending them and why they have so much close relation with them? That is another big questions to people. The narratives are, I'm not saying the Assam Rifles are not doing for the country, but the point is the question. They are allowing the Assam Rifle, and the same thing is happening in the valley, that the Assam Rifles having a hand with them in whole conflict and controlling the conflict. Now, how many bunkers has been destroyed in the hill area is one question, and how many bunkers are destroyed in the valley area in last 2.5 months. That thing has to be clearly say by the government. And the surprising part is now law enforcing agencies are not controlling the valley and the hills. Rather the villagers are controlling their own land. So that means there is no law and orders.
Absolutely.
I'm not talking about the hills and the valley. There is no law and orders. Your central government, the agencies are helpless. Your state governments are helpless in this way. And you can see so many people with arms. You are showing only one area. If you roam around, you will find so many. I'm not talking about only the hills. You are showing the Chuchampur area. I know by face and by name they belongs to some area in the Chuchampur that way. But since they are armed and you are not objecting, even if Assam Rifle may visit there or any force may be visit there, they are not stopping it. That means they are not stopping. Rather, they will direct you whether you have to go to this direction or that direction. So that means every law and order situation are controlled by this armed men, whether they are saying whether the village defensive force or any kind of things. So that is surprising. And let me tell you, if this is the case in the porous area, in the border, what will happen in this country? My question is that if this behavior is the same behavior the Indian force are doing it in the porous border, what will happen?
Absolutely, that's a very valid question raised, Dr. Singh. Mr. Swahas, I would like to understand one thing. I can understand that the army cannot, without AFSPA, they cannot control the situation to a level which is required. But with these kind of villagers are completely armed to teeth, be in valley or hill, and guarding their land. How do you expect the situation to normalize? Before you came, Rami Niranjan Desai was there, Mr. Yashovardhan Azad was there. How does other aspects like the civil society or the normalization of the course happens? I mean, it is hardening of the situation by every passing hour.
Well, as I said, I mean, just to repeat the particular points is, I mean, the normalization will take place if you could show at the level of the political leadership that they are at least sitting across the table, discuss, not agree. I don't think agreement situation has come, but at this stage, I would say that I mean, you should have closed door or some discussions among the MLS from both the communities, because they have to, at the end of the day, convince their communities or people. So you usually see the BJP MLS or the Kuki MLS coming and sometimes one-to-one giving the interviews in the media, which at times I believe that they further accentuate the conflict. So the central government should have taken the first initiative with respect to this kind of discussions among the political leaders. After all, MLS are the representative of the people of the state. The second, as I said, I think there is still goodwill, willingness from the civil society groups. But of course, the civil society groups cannot speak in Imphal or in Churachandpur because of the situation, and no security force is in a position to provide security. But if the Home Minister wants, you could come have closed Chatham House rule discussion where nothing is disclosed, nothing is attributed to anybody, just to even show that, meiteis and the cookies or their civil society leaders, political leaders trying to talk to each other. It conveys a sense of belief that something is working out to the people who are armed to the teeth on the ground. So that is not taking place. The third step, which is not taking place, is in the entire discourse. I think people talk about prosecution and etc. All those things are fine, but prosecution will take ages. Disarmament, it will not take place because it has never happened at the height of the insurgency when all the security forces had the power and etc. It's not going to happen. That's the very nature of the topography and the conflict. But what could you do? I mean, I always believe that there are, say, about 15,000 people who have taken shelter in Mizoram. It's a responsibility of the Manipur government to, discuss with the state of Mizoram, saying that, people who have fled from their areas, they should be sent back. We will provide them the security. We will have projects to rehabilitate and to resettle them. At the end of the day, when you have people who are displaced by natural disasters or etc., you come out with projects. When you take away the lands of the people under the Land Acquisition Act, you rehabilitate the people. So whether meiteis who have been displaced or whether cookies who have been displaced, you need to come up with a package how to rehabilitate and resettle the people beyond what you are providing. What is government of Manipur and the center are providing? They are providing some food in the relief camp. They are providing some medicines, and this food and medicine, for the government of India, because there is Food Corporation of India, they will continue to supply at a cheaper rate. It makes no difference. But people have to build their life, and if you do not have the, confidence that you will be rehabilitated. So people who are displaced, they carry the anger, they carry the hatred, and they convey that hatred and anger to their own communities. So in any conflict resolution, you have to ensure rehabilitation of the displaced people, and we are talking about 70,000 people. So 70,000 population anywhere in the world is not the last population. In a small state like Manipur, it's huge number of population. So look at the programs which were announced by the Prime Minister or the Home Minister on rehabilitation and resettlement of the displaced people. Nothing. It is absolutely nothing. So the only thing which the government of India is doing is delaying, and people will forget about it. I mean, that's the way they have looked at or worked on every conflict. In Assam, I have seen it. It doesn't matter. You have been displaced, so God will help you. There is no government to help you. But this is the problem of the government of India, that you do not have, even if you have to spend, say, 1,000 crore rupees to rehabilitate so many people who are displaced, I am sure people will be not able to forget. But when you struggle with your basic life, then it creates different kind of sentiments, and especially if you are in the camps for a longer period of time. Camps become the center of radicalization all over the world. And why are you still keeping people in camps? Why are you not taking immediate measures for rehabilitation? Forget about the opposition party, forget about who is saying what. You as the government of India, you as the Manipur government, have a responsibility to rehabilitate people, assess the damages suffered. The cookie houses which were burned in the valley, the meitei houses which were burned in the hills. The government needs to assess them.
Yes,
And
Mr. Sharma.
nobody,
Yes, Mr. Sharma.
the basic work, nobody is doing
I
it.
agree. I agree. Dr. Singh, one more question which I would like to ask you is
Hey,
that,
Brijesh,
yeah,
before your question,
please,
the earlier question, I just wanted to mention one more thing.
please.
You are asking about the Assam rifle. Sorry, the Assam rifle are saying that ASPA is essential to act on issues. See, Assam, these narratives are very confusing to me. Why? Because the ASPA is not lifted fully from the state of Manipur. It is lifted from some areas. So the area which currently the conflicts are going on is a foothill. Most of these areas are under the control of the ASPA. So whenever you are requiring this kind of the force and power to act on, you can act wherever you have the power to do in the control of the security, law and order in the system. But you are saying that you want full power under the control in Manipur. Why you are demanding like this? Wherever you have, ASPA is still there in Manipur. Only the few area which has been removed and lifted. Please remember this. It's very, very important facts to be known.
Yeah,
right.
Okay. I just wanted to ask you, do you see that, the situation which is unfolding in Manipur has been going on for almost 3 months now, and its spillover effects which we witnessed in Mizoram, the protest in Assam. Do you see it spilling over to other northeastern part if the government doesn't contain it quickly?
Yeah, absolutely. You have seen, currently from last few days, it is communalizing beyond boundaries. People are protesting, meiteis, and even today, some of the student union in Assam demanding removal of one VC which belongs to the meitei. So it is quite, quite important and quite, worrisome to the whole nation, that the communalizations of these issues across boundary will definitely lead to a crisis overall in whole country. Because if tribals are united in against meiteis, and then even since meiteis are Hindus, then Hindu may also against the Christians. So those kind of things may be propagated, and it may be spreaded across the country. So that is worried to everyone. The things are now beyond boundary today. You can see in the Mizoram, many meiteis are moving out from their areas, and even to some part of the Assam, people have started boycotting the one community in the sense. So these kind of the things really worry across the nation. So this kind of the conflict today in Manipur may move out of hand. That the intra communal conflict may reach to inter state. So that is very big challenges at the moment now.
Let's also have a look at the ground zero report, which was found, given to us by our correspondent who is in Manipur. He's travelled Churachandpur, Imphal, and other trouble areas, and have tried to find out exactly what is the situation there on the ground.
इस वक्त अब हम फ्रंट लाइन पर पहुंच चुके हैं और तस्वीरें आप देख सकते हैं। ये वो फ्रंट लाइन है जहां पर ये देखिए किस तरीके से जो कुकी समुदाय है वो यहां पर 24 घंटे ठीक हथियारों के साथ इसी तरीके से पहरा देता है। और ठीक सामने जो आप ये पहाड़ी देख रहे हैं, दरअसल ये वो पहाड़ी है जहां से बताया जाता है कि कभी भी फायरिंग शुरू कर दी जाती है, और इसी रास्ते से लगातार घुसपैठ करने की कोशिश भी विरोधी गुट की तरफ से की जाती है। और ये जो लोग आप देख रहे हैं इस वक्त, ये अपनी जमीन की रक्षा करने के लिए, खुद की रक्षा करने के लिए यहां पर हथियारों के साथ इस रास्ते पर ठीक इसी तरीके से 24 घंटे मौजूद होते हैं। ठीक सामने तस्वीरों में आप देख सकते हैं वहां पर बाकायदा बंकर बनाया गया है, और उसी बंकर की मदद से ये लोग वहां पर जो फायरिंग होती है ठीक सामने से पहाड़ों के ऊपर से उस फायरिंग का जवाब देते हैं। और ये देखिए यहाँ पर कुछ घर भी आपको जले हुए दिखाई देंगे। ये दरअसल जिस वक्त हिंसा हुई थी उस दौरान ये घर यहाँ पर जलाए गए थे, और उसके बाद से लगातार इस रास्ते पर यहाँ पर फ्रंट लाइन तैयार की गई है। देखिए हथियारों के साथ वहाँ पर बाकायदा एक शख्स आपको दिखाई देगा जो कि बंकर के ठीक नज़दीक खड़ा हुआ है, और ये वो रास्ता है, ये वो जगह है जहाँ जिसको फ्रंट लाइन कहा जाता है। TV9 भारतवर्ष आपको सबसे पहले ये फ्रंट लाइन इस वक्त यहाँ पर दिखा रहा है, और ये वो फ्रंट लाइन है जो कि सबसे ज़्यादा बफर जोन यानी कि सबसे ज्यादा खतरनाक इलाका बताया जाता है। और ये देखिए किस तरीके से लगातार यहां पर दूरबीन के जरिए यहां पर नजर रखी जाती है। ठीक सामने ये देखिए बाकायदा बुलेट प्रूफ जैकेट के अंदर ये लोग मौजूद हैं, और ये देखिए किस तरीके से ये लोग इस दूरबीन की मदद से कोशिश करते हैं कि ठीक सामने नजर रखें, वहां पर बंकर पर नजर रखे हैं विरोधी गुट के, और अगर वहां से कोई हलचल होती तो उसके बाद ये लोग जवाबी कार्रवाई के लिए तैयार रहते। और ये देखिए किस तरीके से ये जो घर आप देख रहे हैं, दरअसल ये घर डेविड का है, वो डेविड जिसकी बेहद बर्बरता से गर्दन जो है वो धड़ से अलग कर दी गई थी, और उसके बाद इसी गांव के अंदर जो विरोधी गुट है वो उस धड़ को लेकर, उस सर को लेकर यहां पर घूमता रहा ताकि दहशत पैदा की जा सके अपने विरोधी गुट के अंदर, यानी कि कुकीज के अंदर। और उसके बाद ठीक ये वो जगह है जहां पर उसकी लाश को जलाया गया था, और यहां पर बाकायदा फ्लैग भी लगाया गया। और ये देखिए जो तमाम लोग हैं वो आपको यहां पर वेपन्स के साथ 24 घंटे ठीक इसी तरीके से, चाहे बारिश हो या फिर कड़ी धूप हो, अंधेरा हो, 24 घंटे इसी तरीके से हथियारों के साथ आपको यहां पर तैनात दिखाई देंगे। ये वो फ्रंट लाइन है जिसका जिक्र हम कर रहे थे, और इसी फ्रंट लाइन तक पहुंचने के लिए हमें तकरीबन 1 से 1.5 घंटा लगा पहाड़ों में। और ये देखिए किस तरीके से लगातार ये लोग यहां पर हथियारों के दम पर, इनका दावा है कि अपनी जमीन की रक्षा करते हैं, इस फ्रंट लाइन पर 24 घंटे यहां पर इन्हीं हथियारों के साथ तैनात रहते हैं। TV9 भारतवर्ष इस वक्त फ्रंट लाइन पर मौजूद है। इसे फ्रंट लाइन क्यों कहते हैं आपको समझाने की कोशिश करते हैं। दरअसल ये जो आप यहां पर देख रहे हैं, जहां पर ये सड़क को खोदा गया है, ये ठीक सामने ये मेइतेई का इलाका बताया जाता है, और इस वक्त जहां मैं मौजूद हूं ये दरअसल बताया जाता है कुकीज का इलाका है। और ठीक उसके बीच में बाकायदा ये यहाँ पर ये देखिए रास्ते को खोद दिया गया है, यानी कि मेइतेई कुकी के इलाके में नहीं आ सकते, और जो कुकी हैं वो मेइतेई के इलाके में नहीं जा सकते, और इसीलिए इसे फ्रंट लाइन कहा जाता है। और इस फ्रंट लाइन पर 24 घंटे ठीक इस तरीके से हथियारों के साथ ये लोग यहाँ पर पहरा देते हुए भी साफ तौर पर देखे जा सकते हैं। और ये जो फ्रंट लाइन है इस वक्त आपको TV9 भारतवर्ष सबसे पहले यहाँ पर दिखा रहा है। सबसे पहले TV9 भारतवर्ष इस फ्रंट लाइन पर पहुंचा, और इसी फ्रंट लाइन के ऊपर 24 घंटे ठीक इस तरीके से जो तमाम आप यहाँ पर वॉलंटियर्स देख रहे हैं, वो तमाम ये सभी लोग इसी तरीके से हथियारों के साथ यहाँ पर 24 घंटे पहरा देते हैं। ये ठीक सामने ये जो बंकर बनाए हुए हैं, इन्हीं बंकरों के अंदर ये मौजूद रहते हैं। ठीक सामने इन्होंने अपने रहने के लिए जगह बनाई हुई है, उसी जगह के अंदर ये 24 घंटे रहकर यहाँ पहरा देते हैं। ठीक सामने देखिए पहाड़ी है, ये जो पहाड़ी इलाका आप देख रहे हैं, जो ठीक सामने कुछ घर आपको दिखाई दे रहे हैं, दरअसल ये तमाम घर मेइतेई के बताए जाते हैं। और इसी जगह से कभी भी बताया जाता है कि इस फ्रंट लाइन पर कभी भी दोनों तरफ से फायरिंग शुरू हो जाती है। बेहद खतरनाक इलाका बताया जाता है, बफर जोन इसको कहा जाता है। और इस वक्त यहाँ पर TV9 भारतवर्ष सबसे पहले इस बफर जोन की आपको तस्वीरें दिखा रहा है। और ये देखिए किस तरीके से यहाँ पर सड़क को खोद दिया गया है ताकि दोनों गुट एक दूसरे के इलाके में एंटर ना कर पाए, और अगर कोई कोशिश करता है तो हथियारों के दम पर, ये जो आप देख रहे हैं यहाँ पर, उनके दम पर ये लोग उन्हें रोकने की यहाँ पर कोशिश करते हैं। उसी दौरान यहाँ पर फायरिंग भी होती है।
China won't let us rest easy on our borders, but they will keep flooding our markets. What does Xi Jinping really want?
I think he wants the Indian market, no doubt about it. It's really a matter of showing their dominance.
India's great Chinese conundrum.
Nobody can contain it. Not the United States, not China, not anybody else.
Frenemies. Streaming now.
इंजीनियरिंग कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि सभी लोग कर रहे हैं।
Coaching is now starting from grade 3, 4, 5, 6.
कोटा जाने वाली बीच राह में आधे टेस्ट देके हैं सिलेक्शन की चाह में।
ऑल इंडिया का बच्चा कोटा जाता है।
This rat race is for rats, not for humans. So why should we even be a part of it?
The Rat Race. This and more streaming on world's first news OTT, News9 Plus. Download now.
3, 2, 1, now.
It's stealthy, lethal, and precise. The Brahmos kill